Marvin Harrison Jr. touchdown. Marvelous Marv.
Ball next to the end zone, dropped it in for Franklin. Oh, majestic touchdown.
This is Chasing the Natty, a college fantasy football podcast. All right, good evening, everybody. This is Jared Palmgren, host of the Chasing the Natty podcast. I hope you guys are having a wonderful night tonight. If you can't tell, I am super excited to get these live stream best ball mock drafts, whatever you want to call them, going again. More than anything, y'all, they are just a great way for all of us CFF degenerates, fanatics to all come together on a Sunday night and just go through a draft, talk about some players, give y'all an opportunity in order to ask some questions in the chat. I bring on a different guest every single week. And speaking of guests, I have a guy on here that I have probably been trying to get onto this show for about 2 years now, Mike. I think it's just never really worked out for us, but it is Mike Bainbridge himself from the CFF site, really one of the godfathers of CFF content on Twitter and just in general on the web. Mike, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Well, I apologize for this being the first time that I'm jumping on the show with you. We were talking beforehand. Life gets in the way at times. This is what happens with an extrovert fiance. I think our summer calendar, this is why I jumped on this Sunday, because our summer calendar is completely booked every weekend. But I'm really happy to be on with you because I'm a big fan. And I got to correct you, actually, Jared, because you said in a previous episode with Kevin Coleman that I don't watch his show. I do watch probably 95% of these shows that you put out.
I always joke that nobody in the CFF space actually, like, at least who makes their own content, watches my show. So anytime I'm just like, they don't watch this show.
Well, I am one of them. So, and you do a fantastic job.
I appreciate it, Mike. Again, you're awesome, dude. Again, like anybody who's anybody in the CFF space, like you have helped kind of bring to the forefront. You have been one of the first people to get there. I think you guys are going into your 10th year anniversary this year, right? With the CFF site? Like, congratulations, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, shows kind of just how old we are, I think. But 10th year anniversary, a guide. We did a little bit of a redesign with it. I think Joe did a phenomenal job with the guide. I like to advertise it, but I mean, it's
Mike, go ahead. I was literally just about to ask you about it, dude. Like, tell people about your guide, and then I will probably step on your toes afterwards when I tell them about my guide.
No, I was just gonna say it's we've been doing it, or Joe at least has been doing it for 10 years, and I jumped on a couple years ago. But it's the same content that we're gonna give you every single year. I think I said that in a promotional tweet. Like, the consistency that we bring every single year, I think is great, and you're gonna get player rankings, player capsules. ADP, depth charts. I write up conference previews. And then I just wanted to promote our in-season stuff as well, because, we promote the guide so heavily, but you're going to get season-long projections, in-season projections during the college fantasy season. That'll help you out, set your lineups, as well as with our props, which have been booming lately. So, and then of course our Discord, which Campus Canton has as well. It's very helpful to all subscribers. You get instant access to us, ask any questions. So we're just 10th year. Can't believe it.
I would say, one, I love your guide. I purchase it every year. I haven't gotten around to this year's yet because, for those of you who don't know, I haven't started my new job yet. So the moment I get that first paycheck, $40 of that will be going over to Mike and the CFF site over there, because again, they do a great job over there, y'all. So absolutely go check out their content. It's actually in a link down in the description. So if you want a quick and easy way to go check that out over there, go ahead and do that. But now it's my turn to brag about what we do over here at Campus Canton and Chasing the Natty. We got our own CFF guide coming out on 4th of July weekend. I'm going to go ahead and throw up my little graphic here. Just back up and running, please. All right, do we have video? Says I should here in a second. All right. RJ is saying it is looking good now. Oh, wait. Let me turn on the virtual camera for you, Mike.
I see you.
All right, we can see you now. Perfect. All right, I'm going to refresh my page. All right, appreciate y'all. Again, sometimes things are just being a butt. So in order to make sure that the stream does not be a butt anymore, I need y'all to hit that like button down there. We got a bunch of you in the chat right now, so let's get those like buttons up now. Again, last year we were able to average 20 likes on each of these streams. I think we should start this year off with a bang, and let's hit well over that 20 like threshold. We're already at 16 likes, and by golly, we're only about 10 minutes into this thing. So we're going to keep that going, y'all. I'm going to delay the draft by just a few minutes here, y'all, because again, we lost those few minutes right there. But I will go ahead and bring this on over to... There we go. I saw the black screen for a second. I got scared. We're talking about my CFF guide here. Again, releases July 1st, just in time for 4th of July weekend. Only $20. Team profiles for all 133 teams. We got 48 QB profiles, 60 RBs, 72 wide receivers, 36 tight end profiles. Rankings that go even deeper than that. We got analytics and ADP analysis along with it, and even more stuff than that. So y'all make sure you go ahead and pre-order that. That is also a link down below in the description. You want to go over there and just go ahead and make sure that you will get one of those guides when it comes out for you on 4th of July weekend. All right, Mike, let's bring this back over to the draft. I'm going to try to navigate Fantrax's newfangled... good Lord. Where do I find the commissioner tab? Good Lord. Oh, there it is. Commissioner league setup. I'm going to delay the draft 5 minutes, y'all. So just give me a few seconds here. All right, there we go. It is officially started. I'm going to pause it. And then I wonder if it's... You know what? I'm just going to keep it paused. We'll go 5 minutes from there. Yeah. That's going to be a lot easier than me going into the Fantrax commissioner settings. Anyway, this is great content. I'm sure everybody listening to this loves me talking through this. Anyway, we're going to take 5 minutes here. Again, a couple of you have already dropped a couple questions in the chat here, so we'll go ahead and answer them here real quick. So Daniel Strait asked the first question here. He said, is the Oklahoma backfield even worth it this year? Will we know who, quote, the guy is too late? So Mike, again, we got guys like Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk. We got, if you're a believer, Marcus Major over there. Are you targeting anybody in that backfield, or are you avoiding?
So I tweeted this out and I flipped through the Phil Steele guide, and he has Marcus Major as the RB1, and I just kind of scoffed and moved along from there because I don't see that. No. I've been drafting Gavin Sawchuk at his ADP probably. I mean, it was really late to start draft season. You can still get him between rounds 18, 19, 20 at this point. I mean, I know on your team, Nate Marquise is the resident Oklahoma expert. Javonte Barnes is off my board. I don't know what the heck Deadbone is, and I've just kind of avoided that altogether because that was reportedly what Barnes has or had during spring. So any insight you can provide on that would be helpful.
Yeah, so I asked Nate about it, and for those of you who don't know, our wonderful friend Nate Marquise, he is actually a physical therapist, so he does kind of get involved in some of these like injuries. He knows a little bit more about them than like your typical guy on Twitter, and he basically said that it's kind of like a persistent injury. It can flare up pretty much at any time, but you can also go years without it really doing anything to you. So Barnes should be good to go for the start of the season, but you are kind of running a risk there that it could flare back up, or it could just not do anything. Regardless, I think if you're going to target somebody, it's probably Gavin Sawchuk, because if Barnes does go down, I think Sawchuk becomes that guy for the Sooners. Again, I'm with you, Mike. I'm not buying the Marcus Majors RB1. That makes no sense to me. Next question here. Ryan with a serious question: to stack or not to stack? So that's the question there, Mike. Are you a stacker for best balls and CFF, or are you trying to get your hand in as many different offenses as you can?
Yeah, it depends on the price and the situation. I need to have really strong conviction because, I mean, let's be honest, if you stack and it fails to hit, you're screwed. Yeah. So I like to kind of spread the wealth a little bit. I think there's a couple stacks here. UTSA is going to be a strong stack.
Yep.
USC for obvious reasons with Caleb Williams, and then you can get some of his wide receivers really late in the stack. But I like personally, just me, I like to spread the wealth a little bit, just getting my guys in drafts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say there are two kind of interesting takes I have on stacking that I don't think are quite conventional wisdom. One is that if you're looking for tight ends late in your drafts and you're sitting there thinking like, oh, I just want to take pot shots on some guys, look at your star QBs that you have drafted for your team and go get their tight ends. If you expect those guys to be throwing a ton of touchdowns, they're going to be throwing those touchdowns to the tight end a couple of times. Why not take advantage of that? The other part of it is, maybe this is recency bias because I won a championship because of a situation like this last year. Look at your quarterbacks who have dual threat ability. And then look at the running back situation on that same team. Is it a guy that's going to it's either going to be the quarterback or the running back? Try to get both of those guys. Because last year I traded for both Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Charbonnet in the BTR Dynasty League. And because I knew any given play, it's either going into Charbonnet's hand or it's going into DTR's hand. And that's an offense that is going to put up points any given week. So that's kind of an interesting take I would say I have on stacking if you wanted something a little bit different there. Tommy Harvey asks, Jordan Hudson, is he going to take off at SMU this year?
I am thrilled that I have him on multiple dynasty rosters, but I have not changed my rankings. Jordan Curley was very impressive this spring. Am I a huge fan of Curley? Not necessarily, but we didn't project him at Rashee Rice numbers either, and still at a lesser target share, he's going to get 100+ targets typically in this system. So if you have Jordan Hudson in a dynasty league, absolutely hold on to him because thinks he's going to be the wide receiver 1 next year. Probably wide receiver 3 this year is how I'm projecting it.
I think he'll be the wide receiver 2 by the end of the year. I think he's just too talented. But I kind of dove into this on CTN recently, so you can go check out that episode. But I basically kind of said that it was the episode with Justice last week. I basically said that as far as I'm concerned with Hudson, I still think he's the most talented receiver on that team. I think there is a possibility that he could come in and just dominate immediately. But like Mike said, Curley has just been too good. So I'm still leaning as Curley. And Hudson's going late enough in drafts so you can absolutely grab both of those guys and just hold on to both, especially in a best ball league. And if Hudson takes over Curley by year's end and everything, you're good to go there.
All right. Who asked that question? Because they're going to draft Hudson.
That was Tommy Harvey. So he's not in this draft. He'll probably be in future drafts here. Speaking of the draft, I'm going to go ahead and get us started here. Daniel, you are on the clock, sir, so go ahead and get ready for that. While he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and explain to everybody what the format is here. Again, this is a quote-unquote mock draft. It's a best ball draft, $5 entry here. You are, again, just a little incentive for people to kind of add a little bit more onto or just have a little bit of reason to, draft a little bit better because there's actual money involved here. 30 rounds, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 2 flex. No half point PPR, no tight end premium, things like that. We're getting started here. I'm at the 1-3. Mike, you're all the way at the end at the 1-11.
Of course.
So you don't like drafting at the turn?
I have bad luck this offseason. I feel like I never get 1-1 or even in the top 3. So, but being on the turn is preferable, I guess. So I shouldn't complain too much.
I don't know, because you can get 2 studs on the turn in the first round. Because there's guys like somebody's going to reach up in the first round and draft somebody too early, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there at the turn. You have 2 guys fall to you. By the way,
and go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know there's more questions in the chat, so guys like Tracy, Shane, I see y'all's questions and everything. We're gonna get through the first couple of rounds, and then we'll come back to your questions here in a little bit. So, Mike, sorry, continue.
No, I was just gonna say this year in particular, there's just having drafted. There's a couple stacks, particularly at the running back position, where it's beneficial to be on the turn. I'll just throw it out there. Boise State running backs where it's optimal to be on the turn. If you're drafting late, maybe the Ole Miss quarterback situation, if you want to draft on the turn there, also beneficial to be be in that spot.
It's funny you mentioned that Boise State running back situation because I'm in a best ball draft right now, and I absolutely was ready to, because I'm on the turn in that draft, and I was absolutely ready to grab both the Boise State running backs, and one went off like 2 picks before I was planning on drafting both of them. I was so mad because then that just makes the Holani came off, so that made GNT not nearly as valuable to me. Hold on, I'm gonna mute my Slack real quick. These guys are being annoying over there.
I hear about this famous Slack on
oh, dude,
on
it
campus.
is absolutely fantastic Slack. I love it so much. But anyway, I'll throw another one out there that you can get on the turn. The Iowa tight end situation. Luke Lachey is going late enough at this point that you can grab Lachey and Eric all right there on the turn back to back. You don't have to worry about which one goes off week in and week out, but one of the Iowa tight ends will be going off there.
I would disagree slightly just because Luke Lachey is should be going a few rounds ahead of Eric All, and I think ADP would say that. But another example with that, the Utah tight end situation. I think I recently just drafted that with Keithy and Thomas Yasmin, right? Sure. Just another one. Injury should happen. Hey, you got the backup, but both could be profitable in that offense.
Yeah, and we've seen Utah go after both of those guys or have multiple tight ends profitable before. Blake Corum just came off at 1.7. That might be the earliest I've seen Blake Corum come off of there. And it's actually circling back to one of the questions from Tracy Howard here. Tracy Howard says, I had Blake Corum on my squad last year. Can I expect him to have another big season, even with the knee injury? Mike, you got that big yellow M on your forehead, man. What do you think? What's going on with Blake Corum this year?
I could do a deep dive on Michigan. I think he provides a very high floor again, but there's chatter that he's going to see lesser carries this year. I think this is Donovan Edwards last year. He is intent on going to the pros. So they're definitely going to try and showcase him a little bit more. I would say this though, don't be worried about the injury. Like that is not a concern for him with lesser production, right? It's going to be the involvement of Donovan Edwards in that backfield, which is why, but the high floor, Michigan is going to dominate that non-conference schedule. Most of the Big Ten, they're going to dominate too. So just the high floor that Corum provides, you're getting a great safety net at your running back position.
Absolutely perfect. And Mike, you are now on the clock, sir. Who are your 2 guys that you are going to go with here, man?
Chris Moxley will like this pick quite a bit.
You going with Bowers? You going with my boy?
I don't watch Georgia games, and I don't pick Georgia players, sir.
Okay. Hurt me in my soul. I bring you onto this show. Anyway,
we'll start with our tight end 1 for this year. Eric Froton also hates this pick because he does not think that Aranda Gadsden should have tight end eligibility, but we're going to take him, brings consistency to the tight end position. And let's see here. Since this is full point PPR.
Half point PPR.
Oh, I missed that in the pre-show. Let's see here. All right, we'll still take Mr. Torrey Horton.
I freaking love Torrey Horton. I think that's a great start right there. Again, we can talk about just our kind of initial strategies for best balls here. I love hitting on wide receiver early. You saw my pick early on. I went with Marvin Harrison Jr. here in the first round. Pretty much if I'm in the early first round, I'm most likely grabbing Marvin Harrison Jr. or I'm grabbing Malachi Corley. That's just kind of been the start I've been hitting early on there because the elite wide receiver pool dries up so quickly, in my opinion, this year. And there's a lot of guys I like taking shots on later. We can kind of get into that later as we get later to the draft. But I think if you can grab one of those elite tight ends like Gadsden or Bowers early on, I think you're doing great. And I think if you can grab an elite wide receiver, that's a great start for you right there.
I was going to say, I think the difference between this year and last year is that the wide receivers in the top 10 range are proven entities. Whereas last year,
a lot of projection,
projection, right? Jermaine Burton.
Guilty on that one.
Yeah, same here. So that one obviously didn't work out, but there's a lot of guys in that top 10 that were just projection where we have we have safety here with the top 10 guys this year.
So interesting in this draft so far, a couple guys here falling into the second round. I haven't really typically seen fall to the second round. And Emeka Egbuka, I typically see go in the first round. Quarterback Frank Harris out of UTSA. I'm not sure what's happened in like the last month or so. He was like a bona fide top first round pick, and now he's kind of slipping into the second round. Maybe people are starting to devalue the quarterback position compared to where they were earlier, but it felt like earlier this year, Mike, we would have like 6 quarterbacks go off in the first round. It kind of feels like it's changing a little bit. Have you kind of noticed that with your drafts?
Yeah, I think people have seen the quote unquote experts kind of take the quarterbacks later on. I know you were doing that. You tweeted about that earlier this offseason. But I mean, specifically with Frank Harris, I would imagine that has to do with Zachary Franklin. Whether or not that's a legitimate reason that he should fall to the second round is debatable, and we'll probably get into his replacement later on in the draft because I saw the Twitter chatter earlier today on that topic.
Yeah, a couple interesting guys that you could take shots on, and maybe we'll get around to talking about that. It's coming back up to my pick here in the second round, but I think we have time to throw out for one question here. Let's go to Steve's question. Who do we like as the Ohio State wide receiver 3? I don't know really if you need to be looking for an Ohio State wide receiver 3. I think, what was it, 2021 where they had 3 of them in the top 25? I think that's your anomaly. I think you need to be looking for just your top 2 guys. Guess what? That's Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka. If you have to shoot for a third guy, I still think you go Julian Fleming. I know like it's big in like the Devy community to kind of poo-poo on him over there, but quite frankly, I think you're still looking at a situation where if Harrison goes down, if Emeka Egbuka goes down, Fleming's been kind of a consistent enough guy over there that he's going to stay a starting wide receiver for them over there. So I think that's kind of the guy you target. Mike, I know it hurts your soul to talk about Buckeyes whatsoever, but what do you think, man?
I have no shame in drafting Ohio State guys because they win me leagues, right? As long as they lose that final game of the season, I'm very content. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, Julian Fleming's just kind of the incumbent, and I think it'll stay that way. And plus, they had guys like Xavier Johnson and Jaden Ballard kind of pop a little bit in the spring. So yeah, I think you mentioned it with the Devy community. It's kind of popular to be on these freshmen. They'll get sporadic playing time, but in a league like this where, they're only going to hit unless there's an injury to one of the top guys. So
yeah, I'm thinking about what I want to pick here because this is a brutal run right here. Frank Harris all the way to Michael Penix here. Just watch my entire queue evaporate there. With Zachary Franklin moving on, I think I'm going to go ahead and target the next guy who I think will be probably the number 1 wide receiver there, considering he's probably the healthiest of the bunch right now. I'm going to go with Joshua Cephas here out of UTSA, pair him up with Marvin Harrison Jr. Boom, I got my 2 elite wide receivers to start out here. I really should have given Worthy another look there because I've started really talking myself into Worthy a lot more recently. I was kind of off of him at the start of the offseason, but I was like, man, if because I put a tweet out recently. I'm sure, Mike, you might have saw this and everything, but like he was targeted 44 times for 20 plus yards last year. He caught 9 of them. Like if him and Ewers kind of fix that connection, he could go on for a monster season next year. Just absolutely nuts.
I'm no Texas fan, but I watched a lot of Texas because Xavier Worthy's props were low the entire year. And I would bang my head on this desk right here after I see Quinn Ewers just overthrow him or Xavier Worthy drops a pass because he would have hit the prop in one freaking pass. And it still grinds my gears, as you can see. But I thought that stat was great. And if they hit on, 50% more of those, you're going to see a dramatic increase in their fantasy production.
Yeah. And again, like I wouldn't draft him in the second round, but like Worthy, like I wrote about it in the guide. I'm like, if things connect this year for him, you're getting a post. It's hard to call him a post-high sleeper because he's still getting drafted very highly, but it feels like that if we knew that him and Ewers' connection gets fixed this year, he'd be a guy going off in the first round.
I think we're going to talk about a lot of post-hype, quote-unquote, sleepers in this draft because I think there's a couple of them this year that we were too high on last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and throw out another question here. I'm going to go ahead and draft my first. I think I'm going to go ahead and start loading up on some running backs that I love. And, I gotta love this UTSA offense here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab their running back here, Kavorian Barnes. Awesome end to the season right there. I'll kind of keep it at that because I want to answer one of these questions because I just took Joshua Cephas in the last round. So let's talk about the guy who left there. Shane Whitehead's question in the chat. What can we expect from Zachary Franklin now with Ole Miss, and how far is he falling now? So I'll answer the second question first. I've seen Zachary Franklin still kind of going off in the round 5 to 6 range because, again, people kind of automatically assume he's going to be the wide receiver 1 at Ole Miss. If Jackson Dart has a bounce back year, you would think he's kind of at the center of that bounce back. I personally think that's still way too high. I kind of did a deep dive into Zachary Franklin on a CTN episode last week and why I think people are highly, highly overestimating what he can do over there with Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss as offensive coordinator. To me, I just don't really see the path to elite production for him. Now, you can draft him, and he's probably a safe pick in terms of, like, you'll get 4 good weeks out of him on a best ball team that you don't have to predict when he goes off. But you don't want that in your first 5 or 6 rounds. To me, he's somebody I would probably take a shot on maybe around like the 9th to 11th round range. Mike, what do you think about Zachary Franklin and his new landing spot over there at Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think he'll be a contributor on your fantasy team, but round 5, 6 is just way too high for me. I redid his projection once that move was made, and he came around 62 receptions, 7 touchdowns, probably around 12 fantasy points per game in a half-point PPR league. So again, solid. But right around that wide receiver 45 to 55 range, which again, you're not drafting in the 5th to 6th round.
No,
so
absolutely not.
yeah, not for me at that price.
Let's see, what other questions do we have going on here? Shane, we'll save your other question because I want to try to get some other questions in here. RJ Isbell asks, where does Corey Gamage land on the UCF depth chart? I'll keep my answer short and simple here. Don't. Just don't, RJ. Again, this guy has 3 schools in one offseason. That should be the biggest freaking red flag that goes off for you. Just don't worry about it. If you want a UCF guy, go get Javon Baker. Go get Kobe Hudson. They're cheap enough in your drafts. Like, you don't just go grab one of them. You don't need an even bigger sleeper guy. I wouldn't worry about Corey Gamage. That's a huge red flag to me right there. Mike, it's coming back to you here in the 3-4 turn here. What are you kind of hoping for here, man?
I was hoping for a lot of guys that were already drafted. So I real quick, I want to answer that question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That move was so disappointing because I projected Corey Gamage to be a top 60 receiver in the Purdue offense. I think the reason he was going for so many, or he went or committed to so many schools, was he was looking for the bag, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And Purdue, that big center on their basketball team, they can't even give him adequate amount of money, so they're not going to give that to Corey Gamage. So yeah, disappointing move all around because I think he would have been really good at Purdue. So a lot of my guys came off the board here. Quite disappointed with that. Let's see, I want to get a running back here, and we are going to go with a high floor guy that I like, Mr. Damian Martinez.
Yes, sir.
I think you know what to expect with an Oregon State running back 1 at this point. They do have some depth, but I think 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns is absolutely guaranteed with him. Biggest question with him, I don't have him as highly ranked, but if he starts catching passes this year, he will be really valuable. But so that's why I don't have him as high, but I think I like safety with these early round picks.
I think the biggest question with Damian, I think you kind of mentioned this, is the fact they split up their touchdowns a lot at Oregon State. They love kind of doing little gadget plays, especially around the goal line, to kind of get weird rushing touchdowns with different guys. So maybe his touchdown upside is a little capped there, but who knows? Maybe he just blows away the whole field this year and he gets double-digit touchdowns. That'd be great. Who are you grabbing here at 4-1? You got Mr. Jamari Thrash. Mike, tell me about him, man.
Yeah, I've moved him up now. This is a term that if you listen to our podcast, you'll hear a lot. The tea leaves are pointing in Jamari Thrash's way. You didn't see a lot in the spring game from him.
He was injured.
He was injured. Okay, so I was tentative to kind of, go too highly with him or rank him too highly, but I listened to Bud Elliott's summer school episode, and the beat writer they had on was raving about him, saying he was that dude in spring practices. And so you kind of gain those tea leaves, or you hear them, and that wide receiver one under Braum is just always profitable. And it's specifically the outside receiver. And which Jamari Thrash played at Georgia State. So we took a shot on him because I knew I wasn't getting him back on the turn coming my way again.
Yeah, dude, I'm totally with you. That hearing how emphatic that beat writer was on Bud Elliott's show about Jamari Thrash, didn't mention any other receiver. I was just like, okay, then we have our guy. It's going to be Jamari Thrash. He needs to be moving up everybody's boards right now.
Yep.
Alrighty, so coming back to me here, first things first, before we get to my picks and everything, I want to thank all of you guys. I gave you a goal of 20 likes. We're already at 32, y'all. Absolutely fantastic job. That is incredible stuff. Y'all don't realize how much that helps us. When y'all continuously leave notes in the chat, make comments, tell us how goofy we are, I don't know what, you leave those likes, that tells YouTube to put us in front of more people's faces who might be interested, whether it's somebody who watches a lot of fantasy videos, whether it's somebody who watches a lot of college football videos. You guys are helping us out, and it's totally for free. So really appreciate you guys for doing that. It has been absolutely awesome. Also, don't forget to subscribe. YouTube algorithm likes that a lot as well. Coming back to me, I think I'm going to make my pick, and then I'll try to answer a question here in the chat. We got a lot of good ones here. I think the next one will go for Brandon Lepper. We'll get to your question here. It is my turn on the clock here. For those of you who don't know, who haven't heard my best ball strategy before, I get my elite wide receivers, and then I load the F up on running backs because I don't like the guys I have to take shots on later in drafts. For the most part, I have a few kind of in case of emergency break glass running backs that if I don't like my starter running back, I can get them most likely. But for right now, I'm going to continue to load up, and let's go to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's grab Jason McClellan over there. This actually goes with Brandon Lepper's question because he asked, who's the Alabama QB1? My answer is Jalen Milroe. Regardless, they're not going to be as effective passing this year. And so I think they're going to rely heavily on the rushing game this year. And Jason McClellan's going to be absolutely at the forefront of that. We talked about it earlier, Mike, about people falling in love with freshmen. I love Justice Haynes. He's going to be an incredible back for Alabama. He has to wait his turn. Jason McClellan's a very, very good running back. You watched some of the tape from him last year. And in my opinion, he looked better than Jahmyr Gibbs at a lot of times last year, just as a pure rusher, as a pure running back. Now, obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs brings an absolute dynamic out of the backfield in terms of his pass catching ability that nobody else on that team could bring. But McClellan's a pretty good pass catcher in and of himself. I think he will be that guy that gets 30-plus receptions from Alabama this year because you always get at least one running back for them getting 30-plus receptions. I think he'll be that do-it-all back. Obviously, you still got Rodale Williams. You got Jam Miller, who I like a lot as well, sitting back there. But they're going to run the ball a ton this year because I don't think they can rely on that passing game.
Who did you say you thought was the starting quarterback this year?
I'm going to go Jalen Milroe. I'm still leaning on the Jalen Milroe train. I think Tyler Buckner, that was more of a wake-up call for those two than anything else. They've been basically saying, like, I can and will go out and grab somebody to replace one of you two if you don't step up. Milroe has the most experience out of the guys. If it's a three-way tie between the three of them, they're going to go with Milroe, I think.
I'm projecting Buckner at this point.
Bama's in big trouble if they start Buckner.
I would agree. I haven't drafted any wide receivers to this point. It could be a mistake, could not be, but it's not a mistake if Milroe ends up winning that job. That's for sure. I asked this question in our guide. I was like, besides McClellan, is anybody from the Alabama offense draftable this year? And it's amazing that we're even considering that question in my opinion.
Right? All right, real quick. I typically load up on running backs here, but there's a wide receiver who's kind of fallen to the fifth round. I haven't seen him fall this late before. Maybe people are starting to get a little worried about his quarterback situation. Maybe his quarterback's not healthy. Regardless, I'll take the value here. I'll go Sam Wiglusz, wide receiver out of Ohio. Get me some action here. And so I'll just go ahead and take that, and I'll look at running backs as they come back to me. Because again, I love the running backs that go off in this range. Like I'm literally just loading up my queue with running backs right now. So anyway, next question here. Again, Brandon, thank you for the question on the Alabama quarterback room. Steve, you already had a question. I'm going to try to get to some other people who haven't had a question. Adam Witt, this is a guy who hasn't come off the board yet, so maybe somebody would take him here. Adam Witt asks, Twitter beat guys say Samson Evans had knee surgery late in the spring, but he's expected back for fall camp. Adam has been burned so many times with knee injuries, he doesn't want to take the risk. What are your thoughts? Mike, I'll let you take this question. What are your thoughts here, man?
So one of those, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe them. It's like Sidelines. One of those Twitter feeds. It's like Sidelines Eastern Michigan. So we did some detective work. Actually, Josh Chevalier did it for me, and he passed along that information. But somebody that viewed that spring game saw that he was in a boot. And then so I have 0 shares of Samson Evans anywhere. They did temper with some follow-up emails. They tempered that concern, saying that it didn't look as serious. Boot was more precautionary, but I know last year he was a popular regression candidate. Mm-hmm. You add in the potential injury concerns, and I'm just kind of staying away for right now. If he hits, he hits, but I'm just kind of letting him go to somebody else, and we'll take that chance.
So I'm kind of still in on him. And again, if the beat writers are saying that he'll be back for fall camp, I'll trust them on that. That's typically not something that they're kind of wishy-washy about. Like they'll tell you no timeline before they'll tell you something definitive of he will be back by this point. So if they tell me that he's back by fall camp, I'm probably going to trust that, but also it's the MAC, so God knows how good those actual beat reporters are over there.
We've gotten burned by some student reporters over the years.
Dude, we really have. It's been bad over the years, but I will say Samson Evans was near the top of my queue just now. So if he comes back to me, I'll take the shot on him here in the 6th round. And again, there's a lot of running backs that I like for the most part. I'm kind of surprised he's still on the board. Kind of a run at quarterback here, Mike. So I'm kind of big on round 7 through 11 is kind of the sweet spot for quarterbacks for the most part. Are you somebody who's willing to kind of come up here in the 5th round and grab a guy like McCord, Leonard, or Milton, or are you going to wait a little bit longer?
I do grab a quarterback in round 5. I'm not going to say who because I'm on deck right here and don't want to get sniped. Right, but right here is where I take a quarterback. So waiting to see what B-Wag does, who I think was he drinking pre-show? Was that?
Oh no, that's
that?
Heath. Dude, Heath in our chat, by the way, for y'all those who don't know, asked like, what's an appropriate number of beers to drink before a draft? I actually asked my girlfriend because I was just curious to see what her thoughts were because she doesn't do fantasy or anything like that. But I'm like, sweetheart, if you had to drink a certain number of beers before a draft, like how many would you drink? And she gave a pretty interesting answer. She said, however many starting spots there are, that's how many. And I'm like, well, we got 10 starting spots tonight. So, Heath, I hope you're doing okay, buddy.
I don't think they'd make it to the end of the draft if they did that.
All right, you took Tyler Shuck. That's your guy that you're coming up here in the 5th round to grab. What do you like so much about Tyler Shuck? Obviously, again, you got the Zach Kittley system there. Do you trust him to stay healthy there, Mike? What do you think?
I'm not. It's funny. I drafted him, but I'm not a huge Tyler Shuck fan. But it's all about upside. It is a quarterback under Zach Kittley in the 2nd year. I think they have improved weapons at receiver. Offensive line was a huge issue last year, probably why Tyler Shuck got injured. So I'm banking on a fully healthy Texas Tech quarterback 1 under Zach Kittley, and hopefully I don't get sniped here, but every single draft, whether I draft Tyler Shuck or not, I still end up with Baron Morton because, I mean, can you really trust Tyler Shuck to make it till the end of the season at this point?
Probably not.
Maybe he proves us wrong, but I love handcuffing that situation. And even in a round 30 draft like this, I'll draft Baron Morton in rounds 25 and just kind of secure that Texas Tech quarterback situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's one of those quarterback situations that is worth kind of stacking for the most part, or handcuffing, because we've seen it. It's one of the most insane passing volume systems we've seen. Probably, I'd say, Mike, you might know better than me, but I'd say the last decade. Probably, like, there's not been another system that we've kind of looked at, maybe outside of the air raid system with Mike Leach, that we look at and say, like, all right, we know that this quarterback's probably going to be a top 12 finish at QB just because he has that many number of attempts. Shane, by the way, you asked about Zachary Franklin. There he goes off in the 6th round. What did I tell you? Round 5, 6, that's where he's been going.
All about name recognition with him.
Yes, sir. I think it is. I was kind of hoping that, like, I was kind of hoping that the round 5, 6 range was kind of like people were trying to shoot the gap of, like, okay, if I get him in round 5, 6, if he goes back to UTSA, I'm getting an absolute steal. But then if he goes to Ole Miss, then, like, maybe he drops down into, like, the 10th round or something like that. But nope, apparently he's sticking there in the 5, 6 range. I ain't touching that. All right, RJ takes Samson Evans there, so I don't have to worry about that decision coming back to me.
Because you talked about him.
Yes, sir. I bet you that is what happened there. So I got one person here that I got my eye on that I'm hopefully making it to me. Oh, Mike, you gave me some grimacing there for Donovan Edwards going off in the 6th round. What's going on there, man?
Yeah, so again, it's chatter. I mean, we heard last year that they were going to get Donovan Edwards reps in the slot, and it really didn't happen, whether that's injury, circumstance, what have you. This year, there is more chatter that they're going to get Donovan Edwards more involved in the running game, potentially use him in the slot, because honestly, I don't like Michigan's wide receivers. I'm surprised they haven't added anybody in the portal. Mm-hmm. They need Donovan Edwards in the passing game, and I think you're really going to see that this year. So in any kind of PPR situation, he's going to be a valuable piece to your roster.
Absolutely. All right, let's see if we have time for another question here. Let me see if there's anybody here. Heath, by the way, gives us an update in the chat. He is almost to 10 beers.
Nice. So I got to catch up. Catch up.
Doing good there, buddy. All right, let's go back let's go ahead of some of these questions from people that we had already heard from, since nobody else is really putting questions into the chat. Shane, you had a couple of them here.
Man, everybody's sniping me.
They might have sniped you DT too. In the 6th? Good Lord. All right, I'm gonna continue to load up on running backs here. I'm gonna go ahead and take a transfer running back within the SEC, going from Vandy to Kentucky. Give me my boy Raymond Davis over there at Kentucky, replacing Chris Rodriguez. I think, again, Kentucky's been a very solid system for their running back situation. Chris Rodriguez 8 and 8 and 8 last year. I'll continue to load up on pretty safe running backs in this range right here. Mike, Shane asked in the chat, I know you were big on him at some point, but with TJ Finley going to Texas State, are you starting to get worried about Malik Hornsby?
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely. Yes. I reached out to the Texas State beat writer. This is kind enough to respond. And so initially he was excited about the TJ Finley acquisition, I guess you could say. He gave it a week to simmer on. He talked to some people around the program, and he is even more convinced that TJ Finley is going to be the starter, whether that's via a guarantee or that he wasn't convinced what he saw from Malik Hornsby during the spring. Very disappointed, because I do have a lot of Malik Hornsby shares, but similar to Baron Morton, if TJ Finley is falling in drafts, I'm snatching him up anywhere I can.
Yeah, I would absolutely do so, because again, he's a pretty decent dual threat quarterback. Again, obviously his passing sucks, but so does Malik Hornsby's. Nate asked in the chat for me to ask you about the supposed patellar tendon tear for Donovan Edwards. Mike, you know anything about that?
That actually came out today. So, I mean, I didn't read up. I'll be honest. I didn't read up on the comments today. I just saw headlines. Everything I've seen, he's expected to be ready to go for this season. So, again, that was talked about just today with regards to Edwards. So I'll have to get further clarification on that after this live stream.
Yeah, Nate says that's generally a 8 to 9 month recovery. So if that's true, Blake Corum is an absolute steal right now, and he's a guy who just went in the 1st round. So
I mean, I peruse the message boards quite often, and I haven't seen a lot of chatter on Edwards with regards to injuries. So, something to follow up on there.
Alrighty, I just took my first quarterback off the board here. I went Jalen Daniels, quarterback out of Kansas, who was a top 4 quarterback in CFF last year before he got injured. I think with a full healthy season, he should be an absolute monster once again. I'll keep it to that. Keep it short and simple because I want to answer Steve's question. This is kind of similar to a question we answered on CTN last week, so I'll reserve my answer and just say for those of you who are listening to go back and listen to that CTN episode. But Mike, are you buying or selling the new Big 12 teams? You got 4 teams going into the Big 12. You would think it would be a jump up in competition in terms of the week-to-week schedule that they are facing. Do you think any of those offenses we kind of like from a CFF perspective might regress a little bit because of that?
UCF, yes. Cincinnati, I mean, your Emory Jones is your quarterback. Look, he ran for 700 yards and a handful of touchdowns in the SEC. So I guess I shouldn't poo-poo Emory Jones that much, but it's Emory freaking Jones. And Houston, I don't know. There's just bad juju with Houston with Dana Holgerson and his media freeze out and guys transferring out of there for whatever reason. But UCF, I like what they bring back, which is most of their offensive production. Isaiah Bowser, it's Isaiah Bowser, who cares? But UCF, I think, can translate immediately in that conference just because of the speed that they run at within their offense. And they're supposed to run at an even faster pace this year. So I think UCF, I'm confident, will translate immediately. A lot of turnover with Cincinnati. I would assume they're going to struggle a little bit this year. And then Houston, we'll see. But you can, aside from Matthew Golden, you can get everybody at a discount. So you're not paying a big price for those guys.
Well, see, I mentioned last week that I'm kind of interested in BYU because BYU has the worst defense out of the 4 teams that are going to the Big 12. So they're going to be forced to pass. So it might make guys like Keaton Slovis, as much as it makes me want to vomit in my mouth to say this, might make him a little bit interesting as a late grab in your drafts. Chase Roberts is a guy that I like a lot at BYU, but why not take a shot on a guy like Cody Epps, Keanu Hill as well? All of those guys are going for basically for free in your drafts right now, so why not? Mike, you're on the clock here. You got 2 picks back to back. Who are you going with, man?
Let's see. We're going to take a guy that we just talked about in JRP.
All right. Very nice.
Very safe. And then let's see here. Let's see. We can use. Oh, man. I haven't even been following who's been selected. So I'm just searching through. Oh, let's see here.
Keep the questions coming, guys, because again, it just reminds Mike about all different guys.
Thank you, Jared. And we'll just take my guy here.
Take your man,
Ontario Brown.
Sell me on this, because I'm convinced that NIU will find a homeless man in a dumpster and put him at running back in order to make sure they have 4 running backs to kind of split the carries between. So, what do you love about Ontario Brown? I love the talent. Don't get me wrong, but
I think it's the fact that the coaching staff has really stuck with Ontario Brown at this point, because there's been some off the field, quote unquote, issues, but he's still around, and you're seeing Harrison Whaley, who is an established veteran, transfer out. I think it's just going to benefit the offense that you get Rocky Lombardi back, that you get Trayvon Rudolph back. A good portion of the offensive line coming back, as long as heads on straight. The offensive line improves from last season, which was a huge disappointment. Gavin Williams, I think, is a fine depth piece, but Ontario Brown is a favorite of this coaching staff. Like, they got him from SEC territory because he was committed to South Carolina at one point. So big fan of Ontario Brown, and hopefully he prospers this year.
All right, you sold me a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. All right, let's see what other questions before it kind of gets back to me here. RJ asks, where are you guys ranking Keon Coleman, and how does it affect Johnny Wilson for Florida State? Again, I'll kind of keep this relatively short and sweet here, RJ. I don't know what the value of a Florida State wide receiver 1 is right now, because, again, obviously you've had guys in Mike Norvell do well before, but at the same time, like, we've also seen years where nobody really benefits there. And if they're bringing in a guy like Coleman, I think it does hurt a guy like Wilson. But I don't know if Keon Coleman comes in to be that number 1 guy. So I'd probably have both of those guys ranked lower than really probably where the average is amongst everybody. They're probably definitely lower than where they're being taken than ADP right now. Mike, your thoughts?
Did you see the interview that Keon Coleman did?
I have not. Let me hear this.
He was poo-pooing on the northern schools, I guess you could say. He was like, I'm doing my 2 years time at Michigan State. They do have a former, NFL coach on that coaching staff in Mel Tucker. But he was like, yeah, I did my 2 years in the cold, and I was destined to play in the SEC, or down south, ACC, SEC, what have you, ACC now. But he was like, hey, I want to get to that warm weather down south. So he didn't make any fans, let's just say, at Michigan State.
No, I get. I there definitely was a lot of love. Lots of love lost there. Good Lord, that's a tongue twister. I'll give myself that one as a warm up before shows. Just took my second quarterback here. I'm letting y'all know I'm gonna take a third one here, because that's what my strategy has been, is wait until round 7 and just hit dual threat quarterback after dual threat quarterback after dual threat quarterback that falls into this range. I will admit I'm kind of scared sometimes, because I'll walk away from this with a ton of guys who are typically a bunch of G5 guys. So like, you kind of run into a lot of bad week situations where they're playing a Power 5 opponent. But if a certain guy falls to me here, I am going to make a certain somebody in the chat very happy. There he is. All right, we're good to go. I'm going to take Dylan Gabriel, quarterback out of Oklahoma. So I got 2 Big 12 quarterbacks here. What is going on with my fan tracks? Why did it refresh? That was weird. Anyway, I got 3 quarterbacks in a row: Jalen Daniels, Michael Pratt, and Dylan Gabriel. I will personally take any of those 3 guys in this 7 to 9 range than I will for reaching up for a guy like Kyle McCord, Riley Leonard, and who else went in the 5th round here? Joe Milton in the 5th round. Like, again, I love all 3 of those guys. Don't get me wrong. But I think the gap between those guys and the 3 guys that I just took is not a huge one.
You could say Shock too. He went in the 5th.
Well, Shock I kind of get, because, again, there's just that insane volume. Yeah. Versus McCord, you're relying on Ohio State to once again have a plethora of passing touchdowns. Riley Leonard, again, I think there's a lot of questions about, can Duke repeat what they did last year? Obviously, if they can, that's awesome. But, like, tell me Jalen Daniels, Michael Pratt, Dylan Gabriel, these are all guys that don't have the ability to also finish in the top 12 this year. Joe Milton, shoot, he could be replaced by Nico at some point. I think he'll start the whole year, but there's still that possibility. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could say the same thing about Dylan Gabriel, but like, I think Dylan Gabriel is probably a safer quarterback than Joe Milton is right now. Couple questions, or let's see, a couple comments in the chat here. Nate wants you to know, by the way, that Ontario Brown has 1 more career target than he does. And then he says, "I'll keep stacking Tennessee if nobody else will." Heath, how many Tennessee guys you got here? White, Milton. Well, shoot, he's probably gonna grab Brew here. Oh, Brew at one point. Shane asks, "What can we?" Okay, 2 questions here, both kind of interesting. What can we expect from John Lee Elridge? I talked about this on. You'll see it come out tomorrow with the Summa Cum Laude draft. I drafted John Lee Elridge at the end of that draft. I wrote about it in that article that John put out on fantracks.com. Go check out that article, guys. It's an awesome, awesome piece by the Gridiron Scholar himself. John Lee Elridge at Air Force is super interesting because, again, I don't think he'll quite get that insane volume that Brad Roberts got.
There's no chance. There's no chance he gets it.
But Air Force does produce a top running back year after year. And I think if you're grabbing a guy like John Lee Elridge in like the round 15 plus range, and you're getting a 1,000-yard back right there, he is one of my break glass in case of emergency running backs. If I don't like my starter running back, he's a guy that I will add into my queue and kind of reach up and get. So, other question from Shane here, because sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, they've made do with all sorts of body types in that Air Force backfield. If you look back, like Caden Remsburg averaged, 13 fantasy points per game. Who was that other guy? Timothy McVeigh. Mm-hmm. A bad name choice, but yeah, I mean, he averaged, a healthy 16 fantasy points per game, and he was only like 200 pounds, not even close to what Brad Roberts was. So they make do with what they have in that backfield, and Eldridge is explosive.
He is.
Yeah.
So even if he doesn't get the volume, like, again, I'm not going to sit here and say that a guy's going to get 1,700 yards. Otherwise, he would be in my top 5 running backs for this year. But he's been moving up my boards. I think if I could pull up my rankings here, I probably should have done this before the show and everything. I think I put him in my top 40 running backs. Like, I've been moving him up pretty recently. I'm getting more and more bought into him. Mike, you are at the 9-10 turn here, man. What are you going to go with?
So we haven't taken a wide receiver in a while. I know you
some good options on the board here, man.
Very good options. I know a guy you like, Caleb Hood.
Yes, sir.
Take here in the 9th round.
Great pick.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I know they play different positions, him and Burgess, but I can see regression to the mean where their touchdown equity is closer than what that split was last year. So really like him, especially in a PPR format.
And he outproduced. He outtouched Burgess by 30 receptions. Now, granted, again, Burgess was hurt for 3 games, but even so, Hood also outproduced him by 200 yards. That's not 3 games worth usually of receptions right there. So Hood is definitely very interesting. Who's your other pick here, Mike?
A guy that I'm starting to warm up to even more, Preston Stone. Get my third quarterback here. So I like my start here with the quarterbacks with Shuck, Plumlee, and Stone. You got 2 potential 4,000-yard passers and a potential 1,000-yard rusher. I think I've altered my strategy with quarterbacks lately. I don't really like to take the safe options. I like Siobhan Cordero's nice, right?
Yeah.
But I want upside with my quarterbacks, and I have a potential 4,000-yard passer with 2 of my guys and a 1,000-yard rusher, and those are the kind of guys that I target because, yeah, you can get a Sam Hartman maybe who just went off the board, but he'll get you 20 fantasy points a game, consistent, right? Yeah. And consistency's fine, but I want that upside with my quarterback position. So those are the kinds of guys that I personally target in drafts.
Yeah, no, I thought about Preston Stone the other day where I'm like, man, he didn't look great sometimes when he was out there, but like Brett Lashley, man, he's done magic with worse QBs before, and I think I know Chris K's not big on Tanner Mordecai because he thinks that system kind of propped up Tanner Mordecai big time while he was there at SMU. So we'll definitely.
Did you watch that spring game, Wisconsin?
Yeah, I saw bits and pieces. It was very, very ugly. Nate, for all of his smack talk about Ontario Brown, says that he digs your roster, Mike. So
it's rare that I get a compliment from Nate, so I appreciate that.
So we were talking about the Slack earlier. Can I tell you something funny that happened?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're editing last year's guide to update it for this year, and like Nate's like kind of reading through some of our profiles from last year, and he said like, hey man, whoever wrote Sam Hartman's profile last year has said that this is probably his last year with the Demon Deacons. Like, great job. And then like he found Drake May's profile, and he was just like, hey, whoever did Drake May last year, you absolutely nailed it. It was like perfectly what happened throughout the year. And I was like, I wrote both of those. Nate doesn't know that I wrote both of those, so like I should do more like anonymous content. So Nate compliments me more. This is great. Real quick before it gets to my pick here, 2 questions came through at the same time, both from Adam and Shane, both asking about the same offense. So let's touch on this one here. The Hawaii offense, our run and shoot system here with Timmy Chang. Do we think that offense will be improved much this year? And who's the wide receiver 1 we would want to target there?
They still have Braden Sugar Shager there as their starting quarterback. So I'm not convinced that it's going to be a complete, 180 or 360 to just, they're scoring 30, 40 points a game. But the fact that they're fully implementing the run and shoot now this year, instead of doing whatever mixed bag they were trying last year, you fully want to invest in the slot receiver. Now, who that is, I don't have a clue. I would imagine C2C doesn't have a clue at this point. It's a toss-up, right? I know some people like Jonah Panoke. He's an outside receiver. Outside receivers can thrive in that Hawaii offense, but that was like with Cole McDonald.
Yeah.
I don't think Braden Shager is Cole McDonald. So identifying that slot receiver, I do think is imperative. I've started to draft. I'm going to ruin it, but I've started to draft Chucky Hines.
Okay.
Still not sure that he's even the slot receiver. I've seen, I look at the preseason magazines because they really have, sometimes more insight than we do. And they have 3 magazines, 3 different names. So I kind of threw my hands up at that point, and, we'll take a shot here in the 29th, 30th round, but I really don't have, I haven't identified that slot receiver just yet.
Alrighty, I'm going to talk about my picks here. I'm going to take 2 best player availables for me right here. Surprise Caleb Johnson, a running back out of Iowa, still on the board here in the 10th round. Iowa's offense is not great, but we know they want to run the ball as much as they can. And Caleb Johnson took over that backfield by year's end as a freshman. Got a little dinged up towards the end, so couldn't really see him finish strong like we would want him to, but I think he'll have a great year. And then Justin Lockhart. I thought for sure that when Shavon Cordero came off the board a couple rounds ago, that same team probably might come back around, grab Justin Lockhart, get that nice little stack there. But here he is. He's my 4th wide receiver. I will take that. I think he's an easy 1,000 yards this year with Cordero back there at quarterback.
I'm conflicted there because he really wasn't good last year. Lot of drops. 51% conversion rate. But who the heck else is going to catch the ball there besides, the tight ends?
Charles Ross, who transferred from Nevada a year earlier and got overtaken by both Lockhart and Cook last year. No.
He's a name that I've just, again, I'm going to mention it again, tea leaves. You kind of start seeing his name pop up a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's that number 2, replaces Lockhart as that number 2 guy this year.
Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't be surprised by that whatsoever. And I have realized that I have a certain need for my team that I got to take care of here relatively soon. Otherwise, I'm going to be in real trouble there. Let's see. Any other questions here in the chat? Shane, just keep it coming, man, because nobody else is asking questions. So let's hear about it. What do we think about?
He's constant,
dude.
Shane, he's nonstop,
dude. Shane. His talent is coming up with questions, and he'll ask you about every single offense in the entire country before he lets you off the hook. Shane, what do we think about Scatabo at Arizona State over there? Mike, I think it's going to most likely be committee enough to where nobody really breaks out over there at Arizona State. It's always hard to bet on a guy who's coming up from the FCS level, but like you said, Mike, the tea leaves are kind of saying that he looks the best out of the bunch over there. And we saw Bucky Irving, even with Kenny Dillingham, who typically takes a committee approach, was efficient enough with the touches he got that he could still be a relevant CFF running back some weeks. I'm personally not going out of my way to draft him, but if I'm in round 25 plus, I'm struggling at running back and I see him just sitting there, I'll probably take the shot on him. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I have 0 shares personally. That you kind of alluded to it. Dillingham typically prefers to spread out the carries. Here's where it does get interesting with Scatabo. They typically Dillingham's offense typically involves the quarterback. I hear that I'm up on the clock here. They typically involve the quarterback in the run game, which I don't think with Drew Pine or whoever wins that job, right? I don't think they're going to run too much like Bo Nix did, for example, a year ago. So I think that can help his value, that the quarterback's not going to be involved in the run game. Again, I haven't drafted him. I don't know how good Arizona State's going to be this year, but he's also going between rounds 15 and 20. So you're not paying a premium for him this year. So let's see here. Who am I going to take? Oh, I think I'm going to, let's see. All right. The timer, I can hear it in my headphones.
Hey, okay, you're taking a shot on GNT.
Let's see. All right, we're going to take him. John T, I was looking for Holani, did not get the stack that I mentioned in the pre-show.
No, Holani went off in the 7th round.
So I like the upside, though. Why did George Holani go back to Boise State?
I have no clue, dude.
I have no clue. Like, I know they tried to fix their NIL situation, Boise State, in the offseason. So maybe he got some money there, but it makes no sense. He actually had a good season. So why not parlay that into an NFL draft pick? I don't know.
He probably would have done better than like Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell's another one. I have no idea why he left.
He should have parlayed that into a P5 offer, which I can't believe he didn't receive. All right, timer.
All right, Javon Harvey.
Don't know that offense is going to jump right out of the gates in year one, but he is the clear-cut wide receiver 1 in that offense. So we like that in a PPR format.
Yeah, and again, I expect Old Dominion to be bad this year. They're going to have to pass a ton. They're in the Sun Belt Conference, which is defensively challenged. I just like the process there. It's very good. Jalen Conyers comes off the board there. Any questions before it kind of makes it to my pick here? Shane, I'll come back to your Stanford question in a second. We'll go with Adam because it's his turn now. Why is Ashton Hawkins going so high when neither Texas State quarterback can hit a barn? You know, Adam, I semi-agree with you. I think he is going too high in the 8th round. I get why people want to draft him, though, because there's really nobody else there at Texas State who's really worth anything. He might be the only one who, like, you're saying that, like, neither QB can hit a barn. I don't think there's anybody outside of Hawkins, at least I know of right now, on the Bobcats that can be a barn in terms of like being able to hit them. So I think I get why, but if they don't fix that, then Texas State's really in for a world of hurt. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of shares of Ashton Hawkins, partially because the last 2 years that wide receiver 1 in that offense has been the boundary receiver. And Ashton Hawkins is going to play the slot this year. He's going to be, primarily slot. They might shift them outside a little bit, but primarily slot. And yes, the accuracy of the 2 quarterbacks in competition there probably isn't. It definitely isn't great. But I can imagine TJ Finley can throw, or Malik Hornsby can throw a 40-yard bomb down on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So I've actually been taking shots on some of the outside receivers, maybe a Bo Corrales, Julian Ortega-Jones, the outside receivers. I guess Julian Ortega-Jones, that Bowling Green transfer, had a decent spring, was catching a lot of contested catches on the outside there. So rounds, you can get him in round 30. So, but I think that's the hesitation for me personally on Ashton Hawkins, is that he's a slot receiver. You're going to need the quarterback to complete a high percentage of passes for him to be relevant at that price point.
Yeah, I agree. Eighth round too early, but again, I kind of get why people want to take the shot on him. I was scared about my tight end situation. I was worried that a bunch of guys would start coming off the board here relatively soon, but did not happen. Again, I lost Conyers, kind of wanted him, but Luke Lachey here in the 12th round, I will take that. It's an Iowa tight end. I'm happy with that. Like, I'm just happy with that.
Now you're gonna stack it.
We're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. Again, I'm sure somebody in this draft is gonna be a butt and do it, but
somebody took the John Lobb strategy and took Trevor Etienne in the top 15 round.
Committee. Again, people wanted Chris Smith last year, and I'm just like, no, guys, it's always going to be a committee there.
I hope you addressed it in the live stream of the Summa Cum Laude draft
he did talk about it. I didn't really push back on it because you and I, like, when it's just the two of us, it's pretty easy to kind of like have a little bit of time between picks, especially when we're spread out like this. We have a little bit of time between picks. We can like discuss things and everything. When there's three of you and we're drafting as fast as we were for the Summa Cum Laude, dude, holy mackerel. You couldn't have discussion at all sometimes. It was just like, boom, I'm talking about my guy. 4 picks later, boom, I'm talking about my guy. It is absolutely nuts. I'm not going to stack it yet because I'm going to take my 4th QB here, a guy that frankly should not be here in the 13th round when he was the QB 19 last year. Dual threat guy in the Sun Belt. Did lose his top wide receiver, but it sounds like he's got a couple of good options coming back here. Give me Darren Granger here in the 13th round at Georgia State. I love the value I'm getting with that right there.
Interesting selection before yours with Elijah Surratt in the 13th round.
I think shooting on any James Madison wide receiver this early is asking for trouble. I talked about it recently on CTN where, like, if you want like a super, super deep potential sleeper in the Sun Belt, I talked about it last week. Omari and Dollison is a wide receiver at James Madison, came over from South Florida, was there at the same time that I guess presumed starter Jordan McLeod was at South Florida. So he plays in the slot, which is where Chris Thornton was last year. Maybe there's still kind of a connection there. Maybe they kind of feed that slot spot still. It's a long shot, but that's kind of the only guy I'm going really deep for.
I was going to say, if Jordan McLeod even wins that job too, I think I might be on Alonzo Barrett to start there.
Dude, I could not tell you who I'm actually putting money on to win that job. A couple of questions here. We'll go to Shane's question about Stanford real quick. Can Justin Lamson run that new Stanford offense? Justin Lamson is somebody Mike, it's funny because I actually reached out to you in Dynasty about it, where I was just like, you know, he's got 4 years of eligibility left in a Dynasty format. That Stanford offense, man, like, or that Troy Taylor offense, if he gets it going, it's going to be a fun offense. I have zero confidence that he's going to be able to get that going in year one. That roster needs a huge rebuild going on over there. Justin Lamson, as good as he flashed in the spring games for Syracuse, I'm not convinced that that's going to be a week in and week out thing with him. Who the hell is he going to throw to at Stanford not named Benjamin Urasek? I couldn't really tell you. They do got a wide receiver, freshman wide receiver they're starting there named Tiger Buckmeyer, so maybe keep an eye out for him in the future. I think he's a guy, a next year guy. He's a guy you get in Dynasty right now. Probably can get him from cheap. Actually, you probably can't, because if he's on a roster, more than likely that person already has a pretty high opinion of Justin Lamson, is not going to let him go.
Yeah, we just had Chris Thornton.
Yeah, let me reach out.
If you want to attack,
let me reach out to Luke real quick.
I'll on Justin Lamson. Joe, my partner at the CFF site, gets pissed off when I reference. I like to reference, the magazines, because I like to take in all the information, right? And I thought it was notable that Phil Steele listed Justin Lamson as the 3rd string quarterback for Stanford.
Ooh, no, I didn't realize
so
that.
Maybe I should have taken up that trade offer with you on Justin Lamson in our draft. But no, I like Justin Lamson to start this year still. I'm not changing my ranking because of that. Here's where he's intriguing. I get Asher O'Hara, who was Troy Taylor, the new head coach for Stanford. Yeah. Asher O'Hara was his quarterback at Sacramento State. Lamson is not that athlete, but he ran it 162 times in 2021 and 211 times last year. So I'm on the clock now too. That's kind of why I'm interested maybe in year one with Justin Lamson, is that he could provide that rushing floor that you would like in a quarterback. So I'm going to take a guy that we've talked about already, John Lee Eldridge.
You got him around early on me.
And then let's see here. You know what? We'll just take the guy who we thought Justin Lamson could replace last year. in Garrett Schrader as
that's
my
a great
fourth
pick in the
quarterback.
14th round, especially in a best ball format like this. Great job.
Yeah, I like Schrader just because 2 reasons. One, we forgot about older quarterbacks last year, right? A Clayton Tune, a Dorian Thompson-Robinson, where these guys are just those seniors. They're old and boring, right? But they're going to give you 25 to 30 fantasy points a game on most occasions. So, and then we had the threat of Justin Lamson last year. Carlos Del Rio is not taking that job Carlos Del Rio Wilson is not taking that job this year from Garrett Schrader. So I think there's a lot of safety with Garrett Schrader this year as a running quarterback, potentially throwing it more under the new offensive coordinator because he threw it 50 times in that bowl game. So I like the floor that Garrett Schrader can provide.
No, I agree. Again, 14th round, you got a dual threat guy, finishes the top 40 quarterback last year. I guarantee you he's probably QB 40 plus in this draft right now. I think it's a great pick right there. Casey Thompson, again, go back and listen to last week's CTN episode. I was raving about the potential of Casey Thompson if Tom Herman. If Tom Herman lets Casey Thompson run at FAU, kind of like he let Sam Ehlinger did. Again, I don't know what kind of athlete Thompson is. Probably not as good as Ehlinger, but if he lets him run even remotely, there is that's a top 24 fantasy QB right there, more than likely. Again, playing in the AAC, it is a lot of things set up for success there. What else do we got going on here over in the chat? Shane asks, are we worried about Jermaine Brown with Dilfer now? I like Jermaine Brown over there, so I think they're going to still be running the ball a ton over there. I don't think it's going to be a massive change from really what they were doing. Based on interviews, he recognizes that is the strength of the team, is running the football. They don't have a quarterback there that can really chuck it around. I think Jermaine Brown is going to be fine. He got 20 plus touches in the bowl game last year, so clearly they're okay with kind of giving him that workload. Probably not as great as Dwayne McBride's was, because Dwayne McBride is a massive human being and he's a really good just between the tackles running back. But I think that Jermaine Brown's going to be fine this year. I think he's at a great value right now.
I was going to say, when I'm doing our preseason projections, those are the situations that I absolutely hate with UAB, right? You have Trent Dilfer. There is no historical precedence of what kind of, you can take in his high school offenses into account, but it's really tough to use those in when you're compiling projections. And then you got a first-time play caller in Alex Mortensen, who comes over as analyst with Alabama. There is no historical precedent for what either to really want to do with that offense. So you're really using coaching quotes to try and compile their projection. So it is difficult with Jermaine Brown this year. And, like you said, they hyped up that depth this year in the backfield.
I've messed up, dude. I was trying to switch out the pick for Madden over here to switch out Chris Thornton. I realized I'm like, oh, Chris Thornton is still on the board here. And I'm just like, wait a minute. I was supposed to switch out Brew McCoy for Chris Thornton, and now they're both on the board. So now I'm having to text Ben, like, who was your pick? I'm so
and
sorry.
You're on the clock.
And I'm on the clock? Oh, jeez. Oh, God. Okay, let's just get the Iowa stat. I got all 3 valuable pieces of the Iowa offense. What a great CFF drafter I am. So, but again, if Brian Ferentz is going to hit 25 points per game this year, those are going to be the 3 guys right there: Lachey, All, and Johnson. And that's the 3 they're going to have to run it through.
The auto draft and setting the queue CFF players are having a field day with our draft right now.
I know. All right, let's see. I got to still figure that out. Ben, if you're listening to the stream and everything, can you please text me who you had as your 13th round pick? That is absolutely my bad, dude. I hope it was nobody taking around 14. I'm hoping we're in that range where... damn it, he took Hunt. I'm so dumb. I'm sorry. Sorry, Ben. Oh, wait, no. Who was your 13th round pick? He took Hunt. Pinckney. That was what it is. That's okay. All right. Anyway, great content for all of our listeners. Really appreciate you guys bearing with me here. Let's go ahead and fix this problem right here. And then Thornton.
I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you pause the draft, Jared, because you're on the clock.
Keep it. Oh, am I on the clock again? God damn.
Just pause the draft.
All right, let's go ahead and get another running back here. Let's just go ahead and get me Jaquavius Marks out of Mississippi State. Again, I guarantee you, Kevin Barbay, they're going to want to run that off. They're going to want to run the ball. He's not an air raid guy whatsoever. You got a defensively minded head coach. They're going to want to slow the game down. They're going to want to give their defense time to rest. Jaquavius Marks is the best back by far there. Give me him here in the 15th round. Love it here. All righty. And then I'll fix this later for ADP, but he also wants Horn because same guy drafted. Oh, Jimmy Horn is not available. Anyway, I'll fix it up later with him because he also drafted Jalen Cropper in the 8th round, which I completely mixed. So, oops, sorry, Madden.
Sorry, I'm just focused on Carp Golf's picks of Julian Fleming and Elijah Surratt.
Talk about it because I guarantee it's more interesting than what I'm blabbering about over here.
Well, it's the first time that I've seen Julian Fleming drafted in any of the drafts that I've participated in. So I'm wondering if he has some rationale behind that. Elijah Surratt, only Josh Chevalier has drafted Elijah Surratt in drafts. And hey, maybe it turns out well for him because he hit on Chris Thornton last year over all of us in all of our drafts. So
I was big on Thornton last year too, but again, like in y'all's drafts, yeah, I think he owned pretty much every Chris Thornton share that you could. All right, let me fix up this last one over here. It's coming up to you here, Mike. What position are you kind of hoping falls to you here, man?
Let's see here.
Ooh, Harden, great pick by Heath
maybe
there.
Yep. Some of the projected backup running backs are already coming off the board here. This little handcuff situation. Let's see.
Well, I think Harden's a starter at UCLA, dude. Like again, Steele, like you're talking about the guy who's been at UCLA for a year, who kind of broke out towards the end of his freshman year, or they're gonna bring the guy who's coming up from the MAC. We've seen guys coming from the G5 to the P5 doesn't translate as well as we really want it to be. Again, Carson Steele, it's fun. We loved him at Ball State, but he was 3rd on the depth chart coming out of spring, at least according to the 247 beat writer over there. Again, I know there's a very abusive relationship between the UCLA beat writers and CFFers out there, but at the same time, like it's all we have to go on. So like I have to trust it for right now, and it also confirms my priors a little bit. So we're going to ignore that.
I was going to say, we're going to find out a lot about the UCLA beat writer after this offseason with the who they list with Garbers at quarterback and Harden at running back 1. So
yeah, because Steele had Dante Moore number 1, then Schlee at number 2, and then Garbers at 3. And I'm just like, that's completely different than what the beat writers have been saying. So we're going to find out who is. We're going to go. All right, it is now your turn, Mike. Who are you going with here, man?
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to go with a guy that I've drafted a lot here. Marcus Carroll, I think, is going to get we've seen running back by committee with Georgia State recently. I think he's going to get the bulk of the carries. KZ Adams, the backup, very explosive, 170 pounds ish. So I don't know how much of a workload he can carry on. So I do like Carroll, and he's already shown that he can produce with a heavy workload. He had a 160-yard game. Why am I thinking a 200-yard game? But I know he had a 160-yard game against a Sun Belt opponent last year. So he's already proven to have some high upside there. And then a guy that I've also been drafting recently here at the wide receiver position, Daniel George.
Okay.
Similar to the Georgia State situation or Georgia Southern situation with Hood and Burgess. You know, you saw the discrepancy in touchdowns between Burgess and Hood. There was that same situation with Alex Adams and Daniel George last year. I think it was like a 7-2 split, something like that. Daniel George is a big wide receiver on the outside. There is no reason that he can't get 5 to 6 receiving touchdowns at a floor this year. So I definitely, and he had 100 plus targets, I believe, last year, and there's 100 vacated targets with oh boy, now it's escaping me. Who's the graduated guy last year? Shaki
Jacques Louis.
Yep.
One of the most incredible names.
Great for a podcast too, right? To try and say that. So 100 vacated targets there with Akron with his departure. So I think Daniel George can take on some of that.
Alrighty, let's see what we got here. Oh, Josiah Freeman comes off the board here, and that's a great segue over to one of the questions we have in the chat. What are our thoughts on Fresno? Obviously, you got Tedford still there as head coach, but you have Kirby Moore leaving the offensive coordinator position vacated, going to Mizzou, but they promote from within, so you assume it's going to be a lot of the same stuff going on over there with the Bulldogs. Mike, anybody from the Fresno State roster that you're okay with targeting? Because Josiah Freeman just came off the board, but are there any other receivers that you're kind of looking at there?
Yeah, definitely not Mikey Keene. Not a fan. I don't know. I was taking Josiah Freeman when you can get him beyond round 20, beyond round 25. Mm-hmm. Now his ADP started to creep up a little bit to where I'm getting a little hesitant. They lose 65% of their offensive production from last year, Fresno State. So, new quarterback, new starting running back, a whole new set of receivers.
Yep.
I'm tentative with that entire situation that I don't think we're going to see the same Fresno State that we've seen the past couple of years.
No, definitely a lot of risk there. And like I have Malik Sherrod in my queue coming up with my running backs, but I think I'm going to target a different position. If somebody else takes him, I'm not going to be super upset. But if you guys like him, go right ahead. That's fine with me. Shane, yes, Phil Steele does supposedly interview all of the coaches about their roster. But also, I also interviewed all of the coaches for the CFF guide, if you catch my drift. Wink, wink. So I think that might be a bit more marketing. I assume he has a ton of connections, but to say he's interviewed every one of the head coaches, I feel like that's not quite it.
And are they feeding him
misinformation?
100% accurate information? Because we know college coaches are always truthful, right?
Oh yeah, not paranoid people at all in terms of like what could possibly give them the other team an advantage. Nate also said he liked the George pick. George not getting enough love, Power 5 transfer. Speaking of receivers, I'm going to probably hit 2 wide receivers here on my next 2 picks because it's been since round 11 since I've taken one. So let's go ahead and take Will Shepherd here out of Vandy. I think Vandy's offense could actually be a ton of fun this year. They got a couple of good pieces over there. They showed that they can start to, maybe they caught some teams off guard last year, but they showed they could start to take on some of the kind of the lower end SEC teams like Florida. They beat Kentucky last year as well. I was rooting for them against Tennessee, but we saw how that one ended. But Will Shepherd, one of the guys with the most number of targets per game coming back from last year. I will take that all day here in the 16th round as a very safe guy here. And then the next guy I'm taking here broke out early on in the season, has a new offensive coordinator over there out west, and he is probably my projection pick, the most projection pick I have out of my wide receivers here. But go ahead and give me Ricky White, wide receiver out of UNLV. I think he's by far the best wide receiver for the Rebels over there. You get Brennan Marion with his go-go offense out there. I think he's in for a very, very fun year this year.
Did you just the big point that I caught from you speaking was that you called Florida one of the lower level teams in the SEC?
Yes, sir. Yes, I did.
Does that feel good, Jared?
It feels so
Do you
great.
love that?
It feels so great. And like Sunbelt Billy being their head coach. Here's the thing. I will joke about Sunbelt Billy. I actually think he's a good program builder. I do think he is getting out of Florida a lot of the kind of cancer that was kind of building up there with Dan Mullen towards the end. He is kind of overturning that roster to bring in guys who are a bit more bought into building an actual program. But there's no way Florida fans are going to be patient enough with him if he goes like 6-6 again this year. He's not going to be that. He's not going to be the coach that takes Florida to that next step. I am interested to see who Florida gets after him, because I think Napier will lay a lot of like the very base foundation to build a good program, and then you bring in a guy who's a lot better of a recruiter, and that could help Florida take off. But for now, I'll laugh at their misery.
Yeah, I was just quickly going to say, like, they have the same type of coach on the basketball side, and he's thriving right now. So I am shocked that Napier's not generating more buzz down there, I guess you could say.
All right. Shane says there's some problems with the video loading every 10 seconds, and Nate says no. So I guess it's just a Shane problem. All right, we'll keep it going here. Any other questions in the chat? Y'all go ahead and drop some down here. Again, Heath, you had a question about Elijah Surratt, but we kind of touched on him earlier. Oh, Adam with a dynasty question. Who are the next great UTSA and Washington receivers? That's a fun little question right there. This assumes that UTSA does not lose Taylor to a Power 5 job next year, and assumes that Washington does not lose Kalen DeBoer to a better job, of course. But if I'm on a dynasty team and I'm looking for guys to be those next guys up, should we start with UTSA or Washington, Mike? Which one are you more interested in?
UTSA, because I saw chatter about that on Twitter today.
I'm big on Chris Carpenter. He had UTSA's first ever punt return touchdown last year. It sounds like the beat reporters think he's taking a really big step up this next year. Obviously, guys like Clark and Cephas, they're going to be your two guys probably this year. But after they're gone, because they're both definitely done after this year, more than likely, I think Carpenter's probably your next guy up. I know a lot of people like the JUCO transfer, Willie McCoy, which is a great name, by the way, over there. Mike, who do you kind of like out of those two guys? And then tell me about your picks here.
Yeah, I was on the Willie McCoy train. It's kind of a beat writer battle there, because I think one was saying Chris Carpenter, who did play towards the end of the season last year. Mm-hmm. I like Willie McCoy. I think he's explosive. I think he had a 40-something yard reception in the spring game. So I think either one. Do you know how many years Chris Carpenter has left?
He's a junior this year, so I believe he has at least 2.
I would say snatch both up if you can.
Yeah, not a lot of people thinking about that room right now.
Yeah, and I think they have a decent option next year with Eddie Marburger.
Yes.
Oh boy, here we go.
Let's say 10
seconds. Here we
Mike.
go. All right, we'll take a running back here. We like Akron this year.
Yes, sir.
I think they'll play in a lot of shootouts once they get into MAC play. And I think it was notable that Cam Wiley transferred out of spring. I think that should be Lingard's job. Maybe he saw the writing on the wall that it is going to be his job. So I like Lingard, and of course, Joe Moorhead is a very profitable system for running backs in the past. Let's see. The guys who set up the queues pre-drafts are having a field day right now, because I did not set anything up, and I am going on a whim here. Let's see here.
Nate, to answer your question, it does not look like that Cam Wiley has landed anywhere, at least not according to 247. Maybe On Three is more on that than us. But Mike, you took Malik Benson here, wide receiver out of Alabama. You were asking me earlier if anybody out of Alabama was even remotely worth drafting outside of Jace McClellan. What changed your mind about Malik Benson here, man?
Nothing. I didn't have a queue set, and I was panicking, and we talked about it pre-show. So that's my rationale with Malik Benson.
Well, you know what that means, Mike. That's going to be the pick that wins you the league now.
Probably.
That's how this works sometimes.
I mean, look, I think he has the highest upside of the group. Jermaine Burton is
I hate to say it.
Yeah, he's out for me. I still somewhat believe in Ja'Cory Brooks here. He was good at times last year, but I think Benson kind of flashed in the second half of that spring game, highest upside of that group. So we'll take a shot on him, and like you said, maybe he'll win me the league here.
Yeah, absolutely. again, following up the second part of that question, we talked about the UTSA wide receivers we're targeting for Dynasty. Washington wide receivers, to me, is an easy question. That is Jeremy Bernard, coming over from Michigan State, 4-star wide receiver, comes back over to Washington. I think he's easily the guy that you target out of the bunch. Like, Jalen Polk probably sticks around another year because, again, you see Rome Odunze, you see Jalen McMillan. They go off. Jalen Polk, I think he has another year of eligibility. He'll probably be one of those guys you can probably get at a pretty cheap rate right now. Definitely in best balls right now. Like, he hasn't come off the board here. I wouldn't be shocked if he's gone by round 30. But those are my two guys. Mike, you got any different guys there?
No, I wish I could disagree with you, but I'm on Bernard. There was that one play Michigan State had 2 years ago in the non-conference. I forget who they played, maybe Akron, and he just had a 50-yard plus touchdown, and you could just see that the talent was there. So absolutely, I'm on Bernard too.
Alrighty, and then coming up to my pick here soon, but I'm just doing a little bit of research just to make sure I confirm. Oh, yeah, this is somebody I'm going to definitely want to keep an eye on here. But Daniel Stray asking us about Texas Tech wide receivers. Who do we got for their wide receiver one over there? I want to believe in McCray, but you were talking about tea leaves earlier, Mike. The tea leaves have suddenly kind of shifted away from him kind of being the guy after they kind of hyped him up all spring. I believe he was listed not as a starter for Phil Steele's guy. There was a couple other articles that kind of indicated he was probably working with the second team a little bit more. At the very beginning, we talked about post-hype sleepers. Miles Price. Miles Price might be a post-hype sleeper this year. Again, he was dealt with injuries last year with the rotating quarterback room. Couldn't really build chemistry with anybody. He's still playing in that slot position that we love so much over there. I think you might be getting a pretty good deal with Miles Price at this point. You got thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, that was obviously for the Texas Tech quarterback situation. I was really paying attention to spring reports and the spring game, and it was really disappointing to see Dre McCray, shift outside.
Guess who just came off the board?
Shocker.
Shocker. Y'all are listening really, really well.
It was really disappointing to see McCray play outside mostly because we wanted him in the slot where, typically in Zach Hitley offense that can thrive. But, Duran Bradley finished the year strong in those last 4 games. And he's my personal wide receiver one for now. I don't rank him as highly as some others. I think we could see it spread around a little bit again because they do have a lot of talent in that room, but
they do.
I don't know the reports, the tea leaves, whatever on McCray. I wanted to believe that this is a guy that got 20 targets against Bama last year. I get it. Austin Peay, Alabama blowout situation. He's playing against third stringers, but you get that amount of targets against Alabama, you should be an option or a viable option in this kind of offense. And so we'll see. He's still got a shot. But stock down, I guess you could say, after the spring.
Yeah, and it is definitely disappointing because, again, they had, and this is something I look for. I know I'm on the clock. Something I look for is who do the coaches have talking to the media? Because that does kind of indicate that those are the guys that the coaches trust. They're the ones that usually then kind of produce on the field because, again, the coaches trust them both on and off the field. And they're the ones that are going to get a ton of snaps. That's why I was big on Terrell Vaughn last year with Utah State. When he transferred over there, I was like, hey, this guy's talking to the media a ton. Like, maybe the same thing happens here with Dre McCray. I'm still willing to kind of take the shots on him every once in a while. We're going to take shots.
Not top 10 rounds like he's been going in our drafts.
No. I think it's safe to go outside 10 rounds now. I'm going to take another running back here. This is trying to shoot for the moon here. But Tylan Hines,
I just added him to my queue.
Tylan Hines, running back out of Hawaii. This is a guy that averaged 7.6 yards per carry last year. Just absolutely explosive for the Rainbow Warriors. Again, with the run and shoot system, you typically do see both wide receivers and running backs productive in that system because they open up the box so much for the running backs that even if they don't have the volume, they do have very efficient carries, which, again, Tylan Hines has already shown he can do last year. If the Rainbow Warriors are scoring as much as we want them to be this year, Tylan Hines is going to be an absolute steal here in the 19th round.
Yeah, the head coach compared him to a previous Hawaii running back in the run and shoot that was catching a ton of passes too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
obviously he's a kind of a scat back explosive guy on the smaller frame too. So if he's catching passes, that's a huge boost to his stock.
Oh, 100%. All right, it's coming back down towards you. Chat's getting a little quiet over there, y'all. I see a couple of y'all watching the stream, but y'all can reach over there to that chat and give us a couple questions to work with here. But again, really appreciate you guys. Again, like 36 likes so far. Y'all done a fantastic job. We've had a consistent viewership pretty much the entire night. You guys are awesome. Again, we're going to keep these going. Next week, we will not have one because it's Father's Day. So we can't be doing it during that point. But at the same time, every week after that point, even on 4th of July, I'm going to try to get one going. We'll be here every Sunday night. Share this with every one of your friends that likes just college football in general. Give them a place to come hang out. Ask us about different systems. Ask us about different players. This is really, again, it's probably the most fun thing I do every single year. Wait, Ryan, when did we say you suck? He said in the chat that you guys said I suck, so I have no idea what questions to ask now. I never said you suck, Ryan. Mike, did you say he sucks?
Which team is Ryan?
He is Carp G.
Maybe I
get out of here.
I'm not a fan of his team. I'm sorry.
Nah, it's all good. Micah, your picks are up here, man. Who are you going with?
Well, you see the hat I'm wearing. So we're going to take our second tight end here, Colston Loveland.
He's still on the board? I could have sworn he was gone already.
And then we're going to do a Chris K special here, just for the hell of it. So he can DM me tomorrow about it. JJ McCarthy.
Oh my goodness, Mike. Full homer here, man.
Hey, look, maybe we saw it in the TCU game, right? It maybe was out of desperation, but they started to run him a little bit more. He put on 15 pounds this offseason. That's going to help his not only NFL stock, but maybe his fantasy stock, that they're going to utilize him in the running game a little bit more. So why not? 5th quarterback, 20th round, Michigan. So
yeah. He's just like an interesting player. So a lot of people are big on Shimray DK, and I get it. You're going for the talent there. It's kind of similar to the Kentucky situation where you have talent versus who typically benefits from the system. Heath just took Will Pauling, wide receiver out of Wisconsin. He is playing in the slot for Phil Longo's offense. For those of you who don't know, at UNC and Ole Miss, that slot wide receiver has typically eaten like a buffet the last couple of years. You got Will Pauling following Luke Fickell over from Cincinnati. It sounds like he is going to be the starter in the slot there. Mike, do you have a preference between Pauling and DK in terms of which wide receiver out of Wisconsin you would take the shot on?
Yeah, good conversation topic. I have DK still. My rationale behind that is if you can score 50 fantasy points in a game with Graham Mertz throwing you the ball, then you're probably a pretty good wide receiver.
Fair enough.
But the system play, which you alluded to, is Will Pauling. 5 of the last 6 receivers under Phil Longo, wide receiver ones, have been slot receivers. So that fits Will Pauling. I personally have not seen him play, so I'm a little hesitant on a guy that I've never seen before. But that is Will Pauling's the system play. Shimray DK, kind of the incumbents, he's talented, right? I think he's a good wide receiver. But the system play is definitely Will Pauling. And at this point, take a shot.
Yeah, I just wrote down on my notes here, talent versus system. You guys will be getting a CTN episode about that over the next couple of weeks. I think it's a very interesting topic because it's now my pick, and I think I'm going to go ahead and add to this conversation here. I'm going to take a wide receiver out of an SEC school here. I'm going to take Tavion Robinson, wide receiver out of Kentucky. Barrigan Brown is the more talented wide receiver for Kentucky this year. But Tavion Robinson is in that slot, and we have seen with Liam Cohen, back with guys like Cooper Kupp, back with guys like Wando Robinson. He feeds the hell out of that slot position, and he was gushing about the opportunity to work with Tavion Robinson when he came back to Kentucky this offseason. So in a battle of talent versus system, I think you're getting an absolute steal with Tavion Robinson here at the end of the 20th round. A lot of things kind of going his way there. Adams has a question in the chat. Would appreciate some commentary on, wow, that's a lot of guys there, Adam. Can you narrow that down for me? Because even Jaquindon Jackson, CJ Donaldson, Aiden Robinson, Trey Sanders, and Ollie Gordon. Let me make my other pick here. Let me see what I want to do here. Let's see. I got 7 wide receivers, 6 running backs, 4 quarterbacks. It feels like I'm later in the draft than I actually am here. So let's see. Let me just take a shot on another wide receiver here. Any of these guys stand out to me as guys that I absolutely love? Yeah, shoot. I talked about it earlier. Like, it's late enough. Let's go Chase Roberts out of BYU. We got a beat writers talking about him potentially being the number 1 wide receiver for them. I'll take the shot on that. Again, Keaton Slovis. I don't love him as a quarterback, but take the shots. 21st round. This is a guy that I've come down on him a little bit since I was at my initial high of him, because he was a guy I was willing to take a shot on like the 12th, 13th round. I'm 8 rounds later. I'll still take the shot here.
You're gonna have to repeat that list, Jared.
All right, so Adam, let's start with Jaquindon Jackson. We'll just start there. Jaquindon Jackson, I think he is a safe bet. I know there's a lot of people who select Jalen Glover. I really think he kind of proved himself down the stretch. Yes, he didn't quite get the volume that we were looking for out of a Utah running back, but just with how efficient he was, with the amount of goal line carries that he was getting for Utah at the end of the year, he is your Utah running back for this year. I think he's the guy you can safely go with right there. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've even been tempted to take him in the 2nd round now. You just look at the coaching quotes during the spring. They're prepping him for a workhorse role. And then you even saw in the spring game, they're getting him utilized a little bit more in the passing game too. So you combine those factors, he's a top 10 running back for me. Maybe even closer to top 5 in my opinion. I am comfortable end of 2nd round, early 3rd round. That is where I'm drafting him. I'm not scared by Micah Bernard, Jalen Glover. We liked him last year. He's got to prove it a little bit more. I'm all in on Jaquindon Jackson this year.
No, totally get that. Let's see. Next name on this list, CJ Donaldson. I think the big question with Donaldson is not the volume, is not what kind of role he's going to get. It's how bad West Virginia is going to be this year and what is his scoring opportunity going to look like. Because let's be real, West Virginia could be really, really bad this year, y'all. So I personally am okay with the value he's going at, like that 6th, 7th round value. I think it's good right there. I see some people kind of reach up for him in the 4th, 5th round, but stay in that 6th, 7th round range. I think you're okay. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah. So when I'm looking at running backs, 30% volume share is average. 40% volume share in the backfield is great. 50% volume share is phenomenal. And yes, you hit on it. West Virginia could be bad. I hear him on the clock. Neil Brown, the head coach, has given his running backs dating back to Troy 50% volume share. Like literally nobody else is carrying the football. Mm-hmm. So, Tony Mathis transferring out. I really like Donaldson this year because of the potential that they just feed their best player. And he stuck around. He had NLI offers from, I think, Miami, and to name one of a few. So the fact that he stuck around kind of speaks to me that they sold him on a role that they're going to feed him the rock this year.
All righty, Mike. You got 20 seconds here, man. Where are you going?
We're going to take Cam Porter, kind of a volume pick here.
Good pick, man.
Right? Northwestern can't throw the ball. We know this. You can make whatever argument for Ben Bryant that you want, but they're going to run the ball. And, it's been a constant source of production, the Northwestern running back one. So we'll take him. I really would like to take a receiver here, but I don't have one in my queue right now. So we'll take a tight end here. We were on the Utah topic previously, so I'm going to take Thomas Yasmin.
There you go. I like it. Next name on the list, Aiden Robbins. I like Aiden Robbins as a player. I'm scared that he's not going to get that Tyler Algier role. I think he is the best chance out of the bunch. But at the same time, I mentioned earlier, I think BYU's defense is going to be really bad this year, especially going up against the Big 12 teams this year, week in and week out. They're going to be forced to pass, and Robbins is not a pass-catching back. So I think he's going a little high for my taste right now. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, just not a guy be honest, it's bad for a podcast, but I don't have a ton of thoughts on Andrew Robbins. Like if I'm desperate for a running back, I'll you get to that 7th, 8th, 9th round, maybe I'll take a shot on him. He's got the size to take on that workload, but just I don't know. I was not personally a huge fan of his back at UNLV. Just on talent, I think he was a system play. So, you get to 8th, 9th round, I'll take a shot on him, but no strong opinions.
Yeah, last guy here, Trey Sanders at TCU. Again, another guy that I think he's your best bet, but like I haven't taken a single share of him so far this year. He's usually gone before his name really pops into my head. So again, great content, great podcast content here, but I don't really have a ton of thoughts on Trey Sanders. I think he's probably your RB1 there. I think he'll probably be a pretty good back throughout week in and week out, but I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to finish in your top 24 running backs by year's end.
Where did Trey Sanders go in this draft?
Let me see if I can find him real quick. I'm also getting prepared to I'm also prepared to make my pick. So let's see. There's 5 Sanderses that have been taken in this draft. He was taken, what is this? beginning of the 15th round. So,
if you got running back room, I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Amani Bailey just to handcuff that situation in the 30th round. You can get him in the 30th round, maybe the 28th now, but just to secure that running back 1 role at TCU, I think I would. That's a situation I'd like to handcuff.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. By the way, Shane, Brinkstool has come off the board. He came off 12-11, so. Your boy has been taken care of. Don't worry, Shane. The Clemson players are being given their due here. I also like that Shane has a default name, that has a default S for YouTube, but he's still orange. They just knew that he's a Clemson fan. And then last name from Adam here, Ollie Gordon.
All right, I'll talk. You pick.
Oh shoot, I am on the pick. I'm on the clock.
Right. Yeah, so it's kind of similar to CJ Donaldson. How I don't have a great feeling about that Oklahoma State offense this year. I know that they've been good over the years, always under Mike Gundy seemingly, but you are taking a 4th-string Michigan quarterback and plopping him into QB1 at Oklahoma State. So how effective is that offense going to be for Ollie Gordon to get those scoring situations that he'll need to be a top tier running back?
Yeah, I agree. And again, it's always nice to see somebody break out as a freshman, kind of take over that role a little bit, especially in the bowl game. He's probably the next guy up. But also, he had Gundy had less than kind things to say about Gordon after the spring and everything, basically calling him a wimp. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe it's a little bit of tough love, but I think Ollie Gordon, again, 19th round, I think that's a pretty good deal right there because, again, I saw him going as early as the 10th, 12th round earlier in the season. So I think Daniel got a pretty good deal there. I just took Marlon Gunn, again, very similar to guys like Gordon and guys like Oklahoma State. I don't really know what his scoring opportunities are going to look like. Great pick by Daniel Stray. I should have had him in my queue. Cam Camper there in the 23rd round, leading returner in targets per game. Great pick right there, Daniel. But Gunn is a guy that I expect East Carolina to be bad, and I expect Gunn to be the best thing that they have going for them. He was a true freshman last year, kind of took on the role at the end of the year a little bit with Keaton Mitchell opting out for the draft and everything. So I think Mason Garcia does not sound like has been very promising with his performance in the spring. So I think they're going to have to rely on a guy like Marlon Gunn. But the problem, and the good news is that Marlon Gunn's also a pretty good receiving back like Keaton Mitchell was. So even if East Carolina falls behind in games, he can make up for it in some passing volume. My second pick on this turn, I took Mason Fairchild, top 13 tight end from last year, got him here in the 23rd round. I talked about at the very beginning of this stream. Look for some of those interesting stacks. Quarterback, tight end. I took Jalen Daniels in the 7th round. I got myself his tight end here in the 23rd round. And whenever Daniels throws to Fairchild's way, I'll get both of those points. So I'll take that here in the 23rd round.
Did it pain you that Ladd McConkey went before Fairchild?
No, because if I have to invest in a Georgia wide receiver this year, which Nate, I know you're in the chat, I'm sure you're about to post, and none of them are worth anything. It's going to be Dominic Lovett. A lot of good things here out of Georgia. He's looked very, very good in the slot, which is interesting because Mike Bobo in the past year has, oh shoot, is he still available? Usually he's gone by now. Oh shoot, he is available. Nate, I'm going to prove you wrong.
You said Lovett's available?
Lovett's available.
I'm saying you're saying he's typically gone right
now?
No,
different guy. Sorry, Nate said something in the chat. But no, Lovett, he gets taken every once in a while. But like, if I have to invest in one guy, it's going to be Lovett. Sounds like he's doing very, very well in the slot. It's interesting because Mike Bobo typically targets outside receivers, but the buzz has been consistent all spring that Lovett is the standout receiver right now.
I was going to say, you got some time here. Talk about the, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, the Georgia backfield.
So hopefully none of my guys get taken here because I have my guy in my queue now. Because again, typically this guy is gone before it gets down to him in my rankings here. I just didn't even think about it. But yeah, Kendall Milton, he'll be your RB1 for Georgia this year. Again, without injury or anything like that, he's going to be the guy that they rely on the most. I am still skeptical that he's going to get the volume that I thought he was going to get last year. Because last year, my guys were telling me 200 plus touches for Kendall Milton last year, but then he gets hurt. And then Kenny McIntosh as well. They reserved Milton for this year. So we'll see if that still holds true. But again, as many people would point out, there's a lot of talented guys in that backfield. So if he's available here at this next pick, I'm going to take him. But given how many people are listening to here, I wonder if he'll still be there. So, Mike, you got 24 seconds. Who you going with, man?
Yeah, we'll just go consistent here with Seth Hennigan. I think he's fallen a little too far at quarterback here.
35 passes per game and 35 points per game.
Can't beat it in 23rd round. And then a guy that I haven't drafted yet, actually, but I mentioned the magazines, in particular, Phil Steele, earlier in the podcast. He's got Donovan Green first team all ACC, not Jamal Banks. Again, I have my opinions. I think Jamal Banks is going to be that guy for Wake Forest, but on the off chance that maybe that doesn't turn out or come to fruition, I think you got a talented receiver here in the 24th round in Donovan Green.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shane put Branson in the chat. I need people to quit it with Branson hype. Again, he's a good running back. Don't get me wrong, but he's RB3 for Georgia right now. It is Milton, it is Edwards, then it is Branson. That is your depth chart right now. That could change if people get hurt. Don't get me wrong. But as the season starts, it will be Milton. Pete.
They're trolling you, Jared.
Oh, he's trolling me. That was a troll pick. He's like, it's 24th round. Let's just take Jared's guy here. Oscar Cardenas. I actually think I love that pick a lot because, again, if you trust that UTSA passing game, you trust that offense, they can, on a week in, week out basis, potentially give you up to 3 guys with good weeks. And Oscar Cardenas had a really good finish to the end there. So I love that pick here in the 24th round. Great late tight end pick here. Well, with Kendall Milton off the board, I got a couple other running backs here that I guess I'll probably take a look at here. Let's see. Any other wide receivers? No. Okay. There's a wide receiver I'm going to take a shot on if he makes it back to me in the 25th round.
I was going to say, now in terms of strategy, right? Now is the time in drafts. Best ball redraft. Shoot for the moon. Upside.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm going to probably take the wide receiver first here because, again, he's the one that's more likely to kind of come off the board here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to double tap a system. We're going to double tap the system here. All right, let's get Eagles pick in here first. Any other questions in the chat before it gets to me here? Nope, we're going right now. Let's go ahead and take Brendan Rice. I saw Mario Williams. I saw Zachariah Branch coming off. I'm like, oh yeah, Brendan Rice must be off by now. Nope, he's still there. And he is that outside wide receiver. Looked really, really good at the end of the year for USC. Really kind of came on strong right there at the end. He's the steal amongst all of these guys right now. Dorian Singer, I know a lot of people are big on him. I'm big on him. I like him a lot as a talent. But we've seen that Brandon Rice has a pretty good connection with Caleb Williams already. So I'm gonna take the shot here in the 24th round. That's a great home run pick here. Pat myself on the back, Jared. Why don't you?
Are we gonna change Ben's Sanat to tight end?
Yeah, I'll take care of that. That should be tight end. I don't know why.
I like that pick in the 24th round.
I agree.
And then I was gonna say I like your pick of Brendan Rice. Just a value versus ADP, right? I have zero shares of Dorian Singer this offseason. Could come back to bite me, USC offense, but I love Brendan Rice here where you got him in the 24th round.
And here's another one where I'm going to zag when people zig. People are going after Marshawn Lloyd. Give me freaking Austin Jones in the 25th round. Like when Travis Dye went down, they put Austin Jones out there. Yeah, he wasn't as great as Travis Dye, but if you're asking me to pick the transfer who's going off in like round 9 to 11 versus Austin Jones, who is the returning quote-unquote starter after Travis Dye went down, I'll take the returning starter in the 25th round every single time. Like I've realized he's still on the board. I'm like, shoot, I'm hurting at running back a little bit. Let me take a shot on that guy.
And he was productive. And I mean, yeah, has Marshawn Lloyd ever been, the model of good health?
No, I would say good health. Yeah, I would say I'm like when he's healthy, he's a good running back. So like I love Lloyd as a talent, but in terms of Sam Brown, that's a great pick in the 25th round. I'll take him over Matthew Golden every single time as well. At least in terms of their draft.
Ooh. I'm gonna disagree on that one.
I like Golden as a talent, but I think both of them have an equal chance to be the wide receiver one for Houston if there is going to be a wide receiver one like we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed by Matthew Golden's freshman year, but man, I'm surprised Sam Brown's on the team still. He was the one that got in a fight with Joseph Manjack.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Remember that? And then in the finale, he punched a Tulsa player. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but that's
after insane. The game was over when they were shaking hands. He punched a Tulsa player. So I'm surprised he's on the team still, but maybe he's that talented that
they don't care.
They don't care.
It could be. I mean, maybe that's something we gotta do. We gotta change for our CFF processes in the future. It's like, should this guy still be on the team? No. Is he still on the team? Yes. That probably means that they think he's too good to let go.
Plus, I don't think Dana Holgerson cares too much about that. He'll let something slide.
No. All right, let's see what else is coming up here. Oh, there's Jordan Hudson. Let me see. Heath, did you take Curly earlier in the draft? No, you did not. All right, let's bring it on back down here. Lucas Grimm, that's actually a pretty fun pick there in the 25th round. Again, I think Kansas will be a good offense this year. He's probably the number one wide receiver there. Great pick there, Luke, there in the 25th round. Mike, you want to hit those home run picks. I think you're doing a pretty good job so far with Seth Hennigan and Donovan Green. Who else do you got here for us?
Okay. Do we want to back this up?
Back it up.
Todd Centeio?
Yeah, Ben just texted me. He wants to take Jordan McLeod, but Jordan McLeod's not in the system, so he's taking Todd Centeio as a placeholder.
Okay. All right, so here's one. I guess I wouldn't even consider this a home run pick, but somebody that I've been drafting late. DJ Giddens from Kansas State.
Yeah, exactly what other people are thinking.
Absolutely sure that Trayshawn Ward is going to be that running back one. Either or, 5 offensive linemen back for Kansas State, so I think they should be really good running the ball regardless. And Trayshawn Ward, similar to kind of Marshawn Lloyd, not always been healthy throughout his college career. So.
Yes, sir.
I like DJ Giddens, and he's got that kind of workhorse frame at 210 pounds.
Oh, that's nice.
Another guy that I've been drafting. No, I haven't been drafting. I'll give him credit. Andrew Katz, Samuel Brown from Rutgers.
Yeah.
The new offensive coordinator there who was spent time at Penn State, but mostly with at Minnesota. We saw 300 carries for Mo Ibrahim, right? And at Western Michigan, feeding their running back 200 carries consistently every season. So there's the injury concern. He's got to be healthy. But if he is healthy, like that is the Rutgers offense right there in Samuel Brown.
Dude, I just wrote him down because I'm like, I remembered after that show, I was like, it was on BTR. Go listen to Burning Red Shirt, by the way. Great podcast. Love those three guys over there. I need to add him to my rankings because I'm like, holy shoot, that is kind of a good situation, kind of setting up there. So good find there by Cats. 2 P5 to G5 running backs that just came off the board here, Mike. And Sean Dollars going to Nevada and Thad Franklin going to UL Monroe. Do either one of those guys interest you? Because I'm interested, but I want to hear your thoughts on them.
Definitely Sean Dollars more than Thad Franklin. We saw last year, and I'm looking it up right now. I talked about it earlier. It's great if a running back gets 40% volume share, and Toatawa got 50% volume share last year for Nevada. If Sean Dollars can take on that role, he's going to, I don't want to say thrive, but if you get 50% target volume share in a backfield, you are going to be fantasy relevant. Yes, I'm not certain that Thad Franklin is even the starter at Louisiana Monroe. So I prefer Dollars over Thad Franklin.
Yeah, but Thad Franklin's such a beefcake, dude. If he is a starter for UL Monroe, you got a 240-pound running back. It used to be a 4-star just charging through the Sun Belt. That could be fun.
At what, 5.0 40-yard dash? Like I don't know.
He is a slow boy. He is a slow man. All right, it's coming back over to me. I'm going to probably take, if Eagle doesn't take it here, I'm going to take another P5 to G5 running back here that in a system I have started growing to love this offense or this offseason, which is probably going to bite me in the butt because they're probably not going to be able to get it running in year one, but I don't care. I like the pieces that they have there at different spots. Damn it, Eagle. There it goes. And Naquan Wright, great pick, Eagle. That's who I was going for there. In that Tennessee offense, people underestimate how much they run the ball, and Naquan Wright sounds like he's clearly the number one running back over there in South Florida. So Eagle, great job there. Guess I'll just go with one of my sleeper wide receivers here. Again, I like Malachi Jones over at Tulsa. You got Kevin Wilson going over there. Used to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. He is now at Tulsa. Malachi Jones is the slot over there. We've seen the slot be super relevant for Ohio State. They got Braylon Braxton there. I'll take the shot here. He is clearly the veteran out of a receiver room that pretty much lost everybody last year except for Jones. I like situations like that. Give me Mr. Jones there. Alrighty, where do I go now?
Trolling. He's just trolling you with those Georgia picks.
Oh, yeah, I would say love it coming off right beforehand. I want to take a quarterback here, but I'll be real, not a lot of great quarterbacks. In my opinion, I'm going to take a guy I have not taken so far this year. And I never even thought about it. He's in my rankings, but I've never really thought about hitting these guys back to back. If this team does get going in year one, this could be fun. Let's go ahead and take Braylon Braxton, quarterback out of Tulsa. Let's just kind of pair those two up. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I wasted 2 25-plus round picks on a system that probably didn't work out super well there.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Braxton and then Byron Brown from South Florida. Just those two were. Oh, dude, I know it's kind of garbage time in those games the last month of the season, but they were really impressive. Strong arm, good arm strength, dual threats. Like I really hope that those guys can solidify their starting jobs. And
dude, I wrote like a soliloquy in John's Summa Cum Laude draft over Byron Brown. Dude, I think that he is a great pick. It used to be you could get him here in round 30. I think I saw him come off. He came up in the 16th round. That is a massive jump compared to where he's been going. But I don't hate it. I'm willing to draft him in round 16. I think if that system gets going in year one, he's an absolute animal over there in the AAC who gets even worse defensively this year than they have been the last couple of years.
Definitely want him in Dynasty too. Oh, if it doesn't take off this year, I have confidence it will next year.
Dude, in our Blue Buds, he went off in like the second round of the supplemental, and I was like, okay, I might be able to get him with my third. That's because I didn't have a second round pick. Might be able to get him in my third, and he goes off in the second. I was so mad. I was like, I thought he would fly under the radar a little bit.
Who won that league, by the way?
You did. You did. On the back of me trading you Bijan.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, I put those picks to great work, dude. I put those picks to great work. All right, let's see what else is coming up here. We're getting towards the end of our draft.
I was going to say, I think RJ might have fallen asleep if he's, I don't see him online. Oh, there he is.
Nope, he's good. Colin Lacey, what do you think about that? Colin Lacey here, another kind of zag when others are zigging. Voisin, I love. He's the guy I'm willing to draft up there. But, if Lacey's here in the 27th, what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I heard somebody talking about it recently. I love Lacey. I liked him for a couple years now. And to be honest with you, I'm not a huge Voisin fan. I think he's probably going to be a product of the system. I don't think he's like supremely talented the way some of the previous receivers were for South Alabama. But I mean, at this stage, right, at point, he'll probably get 50 to 60 receptions.
Yeah,
probably average 8 yards a catch with 2 touchdowns. So you're not going to get a ton of fantasy points, but take a shot here in the 27th round.
This is the ultimate just shoot for the moon, go for guys that you think could probably get things going. Also, sorry, chat, I haven't been ignoring you, but it did turn into a Red River shootout argument in the chat, so I'm going to let y'all take care of that. We are getting close to the end here, though. If you haven't had a chance to ask a question, again, a lot of interesting guys came off the board here. Anybody that comes to mind that says, like, oh, wow, I want to hear more about this guy, I didn't think he would go this late or anything like that, go ahead and pop those in the chat. We got a couple more rounds to get through here, so definitely want to hear from you guys over there. Mike, you are on the clock. Who are you going with here? Who are some more home run picks you're looking at here, Mike?
Well, I was going to say I love that pick from B-Wag with Lamonius Craig from the Colorado transfer, because we like McMillan, we love Cowing, we love them both essentially, but why couldn't Lamonius Craig take on those 80, 90 targets, whatever the wide receiver 3 got from Arizona last year? So I think that's a fantastic pick in these final rounds. Yeah. I alluded to these 2 picks earlier. I take these guys, even if it's not a handcuff situation, I'm taking them beyond round 25 at this point. Morton. So I'm going to take, here comes Morton. I do not have Malik Hornsby in this draft, but here comes TJ Finley as well. I'm taking these guys, and Morton's my handcuff, and Finley I think has a better than 40% chance to win this job week 1. So if Finley does it, if he wins the job, then it's good for me, and it screws somebody else over as well.
Yeah, there you go. Good pick by Ben there with Blankumsey, the transfer wide receiver from Toledo to Memphis. If you haven't checked it out already, Luke Probosco on Twitter at Luke Probosco, or at Probosco Luke, I think it is, just put out an article kind of breaking down the Memphis wide receiver, and he said that if he's going to invest in somebody in that Memphis offense this year, which again, 35 passes per game and 35 plus points per game, somebody's probably going to eat there this year, and we're all sleeping on it. Blankumsey has been the guy that a lot of people are kind of zeroing in on here. So great pick by Ben there. Luke taking Edward Sadie. All right, fair enough. Again, had one really great game last year, so he showed that he can have an explosive game. I don't know if he's going to do anything else because, man, that Temple running game is awful. Let's see, a couple of guys coming off the board. Dante Moore, Braden Shager. Shager was in my queue, so good pick there. I'm probably going to hit on, we got 3 more picks. I think I'm probably going to hit on at least one more running back here. And I'll shoot for the moon on a guy who is one of my favorite freshmen last year that couldn't quite break away. And quite frankly, the number of rumors flying around this program kind of tell me that he might be worth taking a shot here.
I already know who you're talking about.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Who gave you the tip? Because Froton gave me the tip.
Moxley gave us the tip. Moxley was on it pretty early on as well. It's an interesting situation going on over there. Nate, distraction. Who's more likely to start week 1, Dante Moore or TJ Finley?
Dante Moore.
Think Dante Moore? I think I might lean TJ Finley because, again, like, it just in my mind, in my head, it's like Garbers is still my QB1 for UCLA. He's had the snaps, so I'm going to give it to him. And they brought in TJ Finley over Malik Hornsby after they got a spring of Malik Hornsby. So I'm probably thinking slight lean towards TJ Finley out of that bunch. All right, let's take my guy here, Cartavius Norton, running back out of Iowa State. If the rumors are true and Gyro Brock is about to get hit with a fat old suspension for gambling, Cartavius Norton is clearly the best running back behind them. And I know they brought in Arlen Harris from Stanford. Worries me just a little bit. But Cartavius Norton, man, he's so freaking good. Oh, Mike, you seem upset. Who just came off the board that you were looking for?
Yeah, well, A.D. Mitchell is a great pick in the 28th round. I'm disappointed that I missed that one. Two guys that I've been on, Josiah Meeman from Florida International. I know you're high on Rivaldo Fairweather, goes over to Auburn. I mean, he's vacating 47, 48 targets, Fairweather. And Meeman had close to 40 by himself as the tight end too. So if he's taking on even more of that target share, I think he's gonna, and it's a former Iowa transfer. So I think Iowa knows how to scout tight ends there. So I feel pretty confident with him. Bachmeier, I'm obviously high on just because it's an air raid system. And I mean, 29th round, you're not spending high draft capital there. So
no, not at all. All right, I'm getting warned here.
Ooh.
I am going to take another BYU wide receiver. I took Chase Roberts earlier. I'm like, you know what? It's 29th round. Why not just kind of increase my possibility of getting the number one wide receiver there? Maybe it doesn't matter in the end, but like, Keanu Hill is just sitting right there. Why not take the shot there?
We mentioned Jyrell Brock. I think Hunter Deckers was the
other rumored.
Okay.
Yeah. I always say it might be bad this year, but Norton can catch out of the backfield, so we will see. Adam asked in the question, Adam, we're talking more about Norton. If Gyro Brock is definitely gone, and they can still run that offense even without Deckers, which let's be real, Deckers isn't like a game-changing quarterback, so I think they can plug in one of the younger guys they have there and kind of run with it.
Iowa State's 5.5 win-loss total. Total this year, just throwing it out there.
Probably goes down a little bit there. And then I thought there was another question in the chat, but I do not think. Oh no, it's just Adam being excited about Gavin Bartholomew. Gavin Bartholomew. That's kind of a pretty interesting pick there in 29th. Another kind of possibly post hype sleeper, but they also, that same coaching staff completely misutilized him last year, so I'm probably not taking too many shares of him.
It was really frustrating the way they utilized him too, but I agree with you. Post draft, postseason sleeper.
Mm-hmm. All right, coming back to you here. I typically like to take 6 quarterbacks, but like none of the ones that kind of fell here to the 30th round I'm loving. And again, because if I have Jalen Daniels, Dylan Gabriel, Michael Pratt, Darren Granger, I feel like I'm good amongst that group right there. Week 6 and 7 are going to suck. Oh, shoot. I have not been checking my bye weeks at all this draft. I think we're oh no. My top 4 wide receivers are all off on week 5. So I'm fingers crossed for Ricky White, Tavian Robinson, and Brendan Rice.
So somebody's winning your money in this draft.
Yeah, ooh, that hurts a little bit right there. But we'll be okay, I think. Let's see who else. Again, I'm going running back, or I'm going to go quarterback here. If both the running backs I'm looking at get taken, I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to the quarterback position. Mike, you're about to hit your last 2 picks here, man. Again, what's your home run picks here, Mike?
I don't think they're home run picks actually, but we're going to take a guy that I like in Harold Fannin at tight end, get my 4th tight end here.
There you go.
I mean, they used him kind of like Brock Bowers, right? He had 4 rushing touchdowns, I believe, last year. So, and that's also a system that likes to get the tight end involved in the passing game. And to make one of our commenters, our frequent commenters of this draft happy, shout out CU Tiger Shane, I will take Bo Collins from Clemson.
Alrighty, taking a Clemson guy. Fair enough.
Take an outside receiver. I am very high on Jake Briningstool this year. Yeah. I think he's actually their best pass catcher, in my opinion. I know people like Antonio Williams, but it's been said before, the outside receiver typically in this scheme has been the wide receiver 1. So 30th round. Again, I say it a lot, but we'll take a shot.
By the way, Madden pick 6 there just took P. Hunter. That is a placeholder for Jarquez Hunter. Or not Jarquez Hunter. What am I talking about? Travis Hunter. Which, 30th round? Yeah, shoot, take that shot. It got insane after the spring game where all of a sudden he was like being taken, like placeholdered in like the 10th, 11th round. I'm like, y'all calm down.
I don't dive deep at all into the IDP waters. We'll leave that to Justice. But where does he go? Where does he go in IDP draft?
Dude, he's like a 101 pick, dude.
Right?
Like, you want to talk about a freaking cheat code guy right there? Oh my god, dude. Although I do remember that, like, in IDP, like, DBs aren't typically valued very highly already because you're typically looking, based on what little I know about IDP, typically going after like defensive linemen. You're going after like linebackers and stuff like that, specifically linebackers, because you're looking for sacks, you're looking for tackles. You don't really get that with DBs too much, but again, who cares when you're getting receptions and you're getting touchdowns? So
I mean, is it out of the realm of possibilities that he's wide receiver 1 there?
I don't think so. I don't think it's outside the realms at all. Again, if I know anything so far about Dion, is that he has like his cool kids club, and Travis Hunter is 100% a part of that. And he's going, like, even if Travis Hunter has only like 10 snaps in a game on offense, you know that 5 of them are going to be deep shots for the end zone, and 5 of them are going to be right along the goal line where they pass it 1 yard to Travis Hunter. They just want to get him the touchdowns because he wants to build a brand, and he wants to say like, hey, look, my star guy's getting the touchdowns. Doesn't matter what happens between the 20s. But my star guy is getting the touchdowns.
That's how he's going to get his guys to transfer to Colorado, too.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I got 1 pick left here. I was going to go running back, but there's actually a tight end on the board I'm kind of interested in. So we're going to go that direction.
Let's see. Does he reside in Athens, Georgia?
He does not. So, no, it is not Oscar Delp, because I think people are going to make the mistake of going after Oscar Delp a ton next year, like thinking that he's going to be the next Bowers. I love Oscar Delp as a talent. I don't think anybody's like Bowers. And so, like, he's going to be a good tight end for CFF. Like, they're going to continue to utilize those tight ends, but he's not quite Bowers. So, but if Eagle would make his last pick here, Eagle's like making sure before every pick, he's like, all right, let me go listen to the stream. What's Jared talking about? Because I might be able to snipe him here. Let's see. Again, a couple good options, decent options at tight end. Eagle?
He just wants to keep us up tonight.
I know, right? Okay, he takes Don Chaney Jr. out of Miami. I'm going to take Trayton Welsh, tight end out of Wyoming. One of the few offenses that pretty consistently year in and year out, you can expect them to use the tight end because, frankly, they don't have any receivers that are worth anything, so they just keep throwing it to the tight ends. And that's the end of the draft. Who is Mr. Irrelevant? Austin Stogner, an Oklahoma tight end. So that is it. We went a little longer than I was kind of expecting here because usually we're done right about 10, but I guess we took a little longer per pick in this draft. It's the first draft of the season, whatever. Yeah. So, Mike, real quick, kind of run through your quarterbacks, or like give me one quarterback that you were surprised did not get drafted.
One quarterback I'm surprised did not get drafted. Will Rogers, did he get drafted?
He did not.
Okay. Did Clay Millen get drafted?
Did not.
Yeah, those are 2. I mean, Will Rogers, we all know it's a change in the system, but I don't know. They made it work last year with Chase Bryce. So I would take a flyer on him late. Clay Millen, I do think the Colorado State offense is going to maybe not bounce back to the Carson Strong, Nevada years, but I mean, he's got 3 excellent wide receivers now that they brought in Dylan Goffney. And I know people are high on Dallin Holker as well at tight end. So they have all the pieces there to make that offense go like they did at Nevada this year at Colorado State.
No, great call. I considered multiple times taking Clay Millen to pair up because I took Dallin Holker in this draft, so I considered taking him to kind of pair him up with Holker there. Just couldn't quite pull the trigger there. Quarterbacks, I'm surprised. Cooper Legas, quarterback out of Utah State. Again, Blake Anderson offense still going on over there. Obviously, kind of a disappointing year for that offense last year, but give him another off season. He's got a bit more experience under his belt now. I think that he's probably in for a bit of a bounce back year this year. And then Talia Tagovailoa. I know a lot of people don't really like the hires at offensive coordinator that Maryland's been doing this year, but he's been pretty consistent week in and week out the last couple of years. Probably a solid 20-point floor guy on most weeks, so kind of surprised he's still there. Running back, I'll take these first. Taj Brooks is a guy I consider taking at the very end here, running back out of Texas Tech. Yes, you typically don't go for running backs in Zach Kitley's offense, but seems like Kitley is very okay with using Taj Brooks more than any other running back he's had the last couple of years. So if that's a team we expect to score a lot of points, Taj Brooks should be able to get quite a few touchdowns throughout the year. And then no other running back really off the board here that like I am shocked didn't go. So I'll throw it over to you, Mike. Running backs that you're surprised didn't come off.
Corey Kiner. Oh God, that one, it's depressing to even think about that one because we were drafting him in like the 5th, 6th round last year. I would take a shot on him just because I think he will win that job, and I do think he's a talented player still. Blake Watson, Blake Watson
came off.
He did?
Yep. He came off with Madden in the, where did he go?
I still see him in the queue.
15th.
Oh, interesting. All right. Let's see here. Who else? I mean, I could talk about North Carolina running back situation. Did Amari and Hampton get drafted?
I don't think so. Elijah Green's still on the board.
Yeah, Elijah. I'm out on Elijah Green this year. I think he was just okay. Like he put up better fantasy points than he's actually then he's a better running back, if that makes sense. Like I think Omari and Hampton in the second year, I think we were a little early there. I think British Brooks is sneakily like in that conversation to be running back one there still. So I don't know. Omari and Hampton, somebody from North Carolina, I think is going to be fantasy relevant in that offense.
I don't know. Last year is an absolute pain in the rear trying to guess who would go off each week. Because we all wanted the freshmen to kind of take over, and then they just never really committed to them.
Always a year too early on those freshmen.
Oh, I know. All right, wide receivers. Who are you kind of looking at there?
Let's see here. Did Kobe Hudson get drafted?
I believe he did not.
Kobe Hudson.
Yep.
Did Ahmad Anderson get drafted?
I don't.
I know people have been talking about Temple. No, he did not get drafted. So Ahmad Anderson, I was kind of on the Dante Wright early, but it sounds like Ahmad Anderson is going to be that guy there, and they threw it a ton last year at Temple. So that's a guy who could get heavy volume there. And then, a guy that I totally forgot about, did not realize that he had that extra year of eligibility, Tyrone Howell at Louisiana Monroe.
Dude, he's a perfect best ball pick.
Perfect best ball pick. He's going to get you less than 5 fantasy points, probably a quarter of the season, but he also had multiple
200 plus yard games.
200 plus yards, 30 plus fantasy points. So I think that's a perfect best ball pick at the end of your drafts.
Yeah, I got a couple here. Again, TJ Sheffield, wide receiver out of Purdue. I think you'll probably get one guy over there. Again, Hudson Card's pretty good quarterback. I know a lot of people are big on Corey Gamage, but we saw what happened there. So I think your chip should be pushed in on the guy who's the veteran in that program at this point. Didn't leave. Clearly, they still want to work with him. So I think he's the guy you want to look at there. And then other guys, Brandon Presley, Oklahoma State. Again, like, that Oklahoma State receiver room is an absolute mess, but again, why not take a shot on a veteran presence in that room? And even though he's never been that, he's not the outside guy, which is like the big fantasy guy, he's been pretty consistent year over year in terms of like giving you some pretty solid week in and week out production. So if you're looking for a guy who is going to give you kind of a base floor every week for best ball, why not take Presley there? All right, we'll go one tight end each, Mike. What's one tight end you were surprised didn't come off here?
Man, I was going to... Did Fairweather go?
Fairweather did not go.
He's a high upside, very low floor type guy. Let's see here. Trent Penix, I know, has gone in drafts that we've done in the tight end premium. So he's a guy. Anthony Lamphere with Memphis. He'll probably take over for the Caden Prescoring role at Memphis. Jordan Smith, the backup for David Martin Robinson. Just a couple of guys that kind of stand out to me.
Yeah, nobody really shocking to me here. Again, Shane Calhoun, we saw what they did last year with their tight end position. So I think he got 1 year of eligibility left. So I'd probably take a shot on him there. Donovan Green, again, Texas A&M, they've had a pretty good track record with tight ends, so why not take a shot there as well? But again, I'm not shocked any of these guys are still on the board for the most part, because maybe Eric Gilbert at Nebraska, but also we've heard enough out of Nebraska to hear that Eric Gilbert still is kind of dealing with some stuff, so he may not start, and he may not even get a waiver.
So. I think everybody in my personal top 30, everybody went. Unless Austin Stogner, I don't know if
he went. He's Mr. Irrelevant.
Okay, then everybody in my top 30 got drafted. So well done to the group of on tight ends.
Yeah, I would say tight ends, they pretty much grabbed all the value there at the very end. So again, great job everybody in our group. Real quick, Mike, look at your team real quick and kind of decide do you like the team you drafted overall?
I like it. I also don't like it. I wish I would have set a queue beforehand. So if you're doing a live stream, anybody, and you're live drafting, please set a queue beforehand, because you don't want to hear that timer. It's very distracting when you're trying to record a podcast. But I like my team. I got all the handcuffs that I needed for some of the guys that I needed handcuffs for, like a Tyler Shuck. And then I'm getting guys that I really like late with the TJ Finley, Baron Morton, just to have them, a DJ Giddens. So I always look for balance, right? I'm comfortable with each of my skill positions that I drafted, and hey, I'm just getting my guys.
Yeah, it's kind of where the same place I went for my first best ball draft this year, at least of the live ones here. I went with the strategy I've been kind of going with all year, which is hit elite wide receivers early, load up on running backs in that round 3 to 7 range, and I would have gone running backs longer, but this group did a great job of grabbing the value at running back in that range. So quickly pivoted to quarterbacks. You saw me take 3 quarterbacks in a row, 7 through 9. Took another one in 13th round who I would have taken at 10. He was on my queue in round 10. I was shocked he was still there at 13. Pretty much I was happy with most of my picks all the way until round 15. Round 15 is kind of where I started getting a little iffy in terms of the guys I was getting. But I still think I'm overall happy with this team. But like you said, I need to in the future really make sure I'm checking those bye weeks whenever I'm looking at my teams, because that week 5 is probably going to hurt me in this league. And we'll see where we end up. So because of that, I'll give myself just a solid B. I like my team overall, but that's probably not going to be a league winner here.
Good second place roster, I would say.
Yeah. Again, it's going to be one of those ones where I'm looking at it, it's second or third at the end of the year, and I'm sitting there looking at my week 5 score being Ugh. So, all right, Mike, it has been awesome having you on. It was awesome having you guys come on here to draft, all 12 of you who are in the draft. Thank you very, very much. You guys can come on and draft again, but again, people who did not draft this week will be given priority over you. So I'll reach out to all of you at the end of the week if we still need some people to kind of fill up for it next week. All of you in the chat, you guys have been absolutely awesome all night, giving us questions. Shane, Adam, and Daniel, you guys are really good pretty much all night, getting us all of those questions throughout the draft. So really appreciate you guys really taking advantage of having 2 experts just sitting here and listening to the questions you have. We're here to answer those. It's great to hang out with you guys. This is just as much fun as I remembered it being. So Mike, real quick again, before you leave, just give a 30-second plug of everything you guys will be doing over the next couple of months.
Yeah, you can find me at Bainbridge CFF on Twitter. You can find me at the CFF site. We got our guide already published. We have our Discord, season-long projections. anything you want related to CFF, you can find at the CFF site. And I really appreciate Jared having me on. I just want to credit you, Jared, because you're doing a lot for the CFF community, and you have a tremendous podcast that I give you kudos for, because it's a lot of hard work to be on a podcast weekly, and you do a tremendous job. So credit to you.
Thank you, Mike. Again, that means a lot coming from you. Again, you've been doing this for years, and like Joe's been doing it for a decade now, and like it does mean a lot, because again, without you guys and like guys like Lob, Froton, everybody, when I first came onto the scene 2 years ago, and like it was not great quality content when we first got started, but you guys like took a chance on us, you promoted us. It's given me the confidence to keep going with what I'm doing here. And so I really appreciate you guys and the kind words there. In terms of what's going on with us over here at CTN and Campus of Canton, again, go check out all of our CFF content at campusofcanton.com. We got our guide coming out July 1st, only $20. Make sure you go check that out. Link down in the description. CTN, no like set themes over the next couple of weeks, just some interesting topics. I know I'm bringing Mitch Hart on in a week to discuss when you should zig while others are zagging. So it's a pretty fun topic right there. A lot of like kind of later round values you could be getting compared to guys who are going up higher in drafts. So that should be a really fun topic. Lots of great stuff coming your way on that. With that being said, you guys are awesome. Every single one of you participated tonight. Really appreciate you guys, and hope you guys have a wonderful week. And I'll see you guys next Sunday.
Oh, you didn't do a blessed day.
No, that's only for the regular show.